One day, a strange gate suddenly appears in various corners of the world. Even though there was no impact from the appearance of the gate, many people protested and complained because they felt anxious about the strange gate. Han Yejin is a young man who does a lot of work to support himself and his little brother, who is going to college. His parents died, and he only had one younger brother. After working as a porter, Yejin and his co-workers go home by car because their job is done. On the way, Yejin saw the gate and felt strange because the gate he usually saw was dark, not red like what was in front of him now. Suddenly there was an earthquake, and Yejin immediately got out of the car. But what happened after was a disaster. A big bird-like dinosaur out of nowhere appeared in the middle of the city. The gate that didn't react at first suddenly released a lot of monsters. A gate that connects the earth with another dimension is called a dungeon. Dungeons that had not been destroyed became full with monsters, and eventually, the gate exploded. This is what people called a dungeon break. And in the midst of this situation that occurred simultaneously all over the world, millions of people fell as victims. But during the chaos, suddenly one of Yejin's co-workers has power that has never existed before. She became a human being's hope, namely Awakener. The awakened people have the power to be able to fight monsters. Since then, the awakened person has become the center of the world's attention. They become monster hunters who also hunt in dungeons. At one point, the hunter became one of the most important jobs in the world. And Yejin's younger brother, Han Yuyan, was one of the chosen people to become a hunter. His younger brother who he loved so much awakened and became one of the human strongest awakened on earth. Yuyan became an S-level hunter and was nicknamed the Lord of Black Fire. 8 years have passed, and now Hunter is the center of world attention. The hunters explained that everyone who awakened had the skill with the lowest F and strongest S levels. They have a status screen that contains the name of the skill and the description of the skill. Much like video games, hunters believe that the conditions under which skills are awakened greatly affect the type of skill and its strength. Currently, materials obtained from dungeons can be sold for money. Magic crystals that can only be obtained in dungeons can be sold at very high prices. One magic crystal can be sold for thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Korea's strongest hunter, Han Yuyan, is an example of the true success of a hunter. He who was awakened when he was still in high school without parents could form a guild named Abbeys, which after 8 years Abbeys became the strongest guild in Korea. He is rumored to have wealth that cannot be measured. In contrast to his younger brother, Yejin is currently only an F-level hunter who only has the lowest level skill called Caregiver. Yejin, who has separated from his brother Yohyun, is now in need of money. He begged his acquaintances to join their party and enter the dungeon, but as usual he could only be insulted by the rest of the party because he was useless. Moreover, Yejin is famous because every time he joins a hunter group, he is always the only survivor when all the other members die in the dungeon. One of them said that Yejin was so useless that even his younger brother, who was the strongest hunter, never cared about him anymore. Yejin became angry and immediately grabbed the man's collar, but instead he was beaten back. Yejin's acquaintance, who was the leader of the party, immediately helped Yejin and healed his wound with his healing skills. But Yejin instead smiled slyly. It turned out that Yejin had activated his caregiver skill on the party leader. He was sure he could harness the power of the party leader. In the end, Yejin managed to get into the D-level dungeon. However, as a rank F, Yejin is only assigned as a miner whose job is only to take magic crystals from the bodies of dead monsters. While mining, he remembered his younger brother who had left him. When Yejin was in the military, Yuyan didn't listen to his ban on becoming a hunter, and even Yuyan made his own guild. In the end he was alone when Yuyan left him. After that, Yejin, who was angry at the situation, went to a broker who could force a person's body to awaken. Yejin used all his money, but in the end he only ended up with an F rank after awakening. Yejin then was blasphemed by the media, and it was said that he was just jealous of his brother and even owed money to be awakened, but in the end he was just trash. Yuyan even came to him and said that his caregiver skills were just trash and he was only trying to lick Yuyan's wealth. After that he left Yuyan's life because he didn't want to be a parasite to Yuyan. Basically, Yejin's caregiver skill is a support type skill that can be activated when Yejin says a keyword, which is cheer up to someone he wants to influence. The skill only gives a little buff. But the skill has another effect, namely when the person he affects dies, he can get twice the strength of that person for a few moments. That's why he survived, because he could always escape using twice the power of his dead comrades. But suddenly the effect was active. Yejin was shocked and realized that the leader of the party was dead. He immediately ran towards his group. But in end he could only be shocked when he saw the poison dragon king, Lachitas. He believes that Lachitas is the strongest dragon that only exists in level S dungeons, which are said to be invincible. But why can Lachitas be in a level D dungeon like this? Yejin, who was surprised, immediately activated the skill he got from his dead leader. He ran towards a tunnel that might be able to let him escape from Lachitas. However, because the monster's movement was very fast, it could attack Yejin instantly. Yejin, who was hit by Lachitas' attack, bounced off and hit the wall hard. When Yejin was in pain, his skill suddenly activated and memories of his leader who had died flowed into Yejin's memory. He saw that a leveled C hunter alone was nothing to Lachitas. He also realized that Lachitas would not be defeated by him. Yejin gave up and thought that he would die right there. Unexpectedly, Yejin's brother suddenly came and saved him. Yuyan immediately took out his sword and fought Lachitas. He activated his skill Blue Willow Leaves, which he used as a foothold to be able to fly, then immediately slashed Lachitas with his black flames. A fierce battle ensued. Yuyan, who tried to protect Yejin, made his movements restricted and he was cornered. Yejin shouted for Yuyan, but instead he was scolded and asked why Yejin entered the dungeon again after breaking his leg in the previous dungeon. Yuyan shouted why his brother couldn't realize that he was too weak and made it difficult for Yuyan. Yejin also thought that maybe the reason his younger brother came to help was because he was afraid of causing him trouble again, not because he wanted to help his brother. Yejin, who was disappointed, provoked Lachitas to attack him while saying that after this, Yejin would die and Yuyan would no longer have to suffer because of his useless brother. Yuyan, who saw it, panicked and immediately protected Yejin. But what happened next was Yuyan's body being was pierced by Lachitas' skill. At that time, all of Yejin's memories came back when his parents died and only Yuyan was by his side. Yejin then came to his senses and tremblingly asked if his brother was okay. But Yuyan only said that Yejin should be able to run and be safe and leave him. Yejin, who was confused, remembered when Yuyan kicked him out when he asked Yuyan for help. He keeps pushing Yejin from his life. But why is Yuyan now even helping him and even willing to die for him? Yuyan then gave a stone that could make Yejin get out of the dungeon. Yejin said that they should try to heal Yuyan's wounds first. Yuyan smiled slightly and said that it was useless now. Yuyan closed his eyes and Yejin's caregiver skill was activated. His skill explained that Yuyan, who had died, made him inherit 2 times of Yuyan's strength for 1 hour. An angry Yejin hugged his brother while crying. He was blindly angry and promised that he would kill Luchitas to avenge Yuyan's death. Yejin immediately flew up and fought Luchitas. At that time Yejin's skills were active again and Yuyan's memories started flowing in his head. When Yejin was awakened to become a level F hunter, it turned out that Yuyan was afraid that Yejin would be kidnapped or killed by someone who hated him. Even though he had to pretend to hate Yejin, he felt it was better than endangering Yejin's life. In fact, Yuyan kept monitoring Yejin and helping him without Yejin knowing. He kept trying to make Yejin stop being a hunter because he knew how difficult and scary being a hunter was. Yejin, who knew the fact, became so hostile and slashed Luchitas blindly. Because at this time Yejin has 2 times the strength of the strongest S-level hunter in Korea, he can corner Luchitas so that he finally kills that poison dragon. At that time, 1 hour had passed and Yejin's skill expired. He muttered and said that in the end he would die too from the poison that came out of Luchitas' corpse. After that the system said that Yejin's achievement of killing Luchitas was an unimaginable achievement. He got the legendary title of Dragon Slayer. He also got a wish stone that can grant all his wishes. But the system said that reviving the dead would not be possible. Yejin actually wanted to hope that he can become a stronger hunter than his younger brother. Become the most powerful hero in the world so he can protect all humans and his loved ones. But he regretted the death of his brother and that there were no more people he loved in this world. He finally said that he wanted to turn back the time when Yuyan was still alive and he had not been awakened. He promised to follow Yuyan's words and live in peace. Yejin closed his eyes and prayed that a tragedy like this would not happen again. When Yejin opened his eyes again, he woke up in Yuyan's Abbey's guild. He immediately checked his cell phone and made sure that time really had returned. He returned to the day when he argued with Yuyan before going to the person who could awakening him. Then the door in the room opened and Yuyan entered while scolding him. Yejin, who was carried away by emotion, immediately ran to hug Yuyan. He apologized and said that he would obey Yuyan and would not cause any trouble from now on. Yuyan hugged him back and said that he was grateful and relieved that Yejin would listen to him. Yejin smiled and said that he loved him. He made up his mind that he would completely forget his dream of becoming a hunter and would live quietly from now on. Suddenly the system said that Yejin was confirmed to be the awakened. His skills, the Dragon Slayer and Perfect Caregiver, have been granted. The Perfect Caregiver skill has activated with Yuyan as the target. System said Yuyan had been given a growth buff of 2 times. Yejin, who was shocked, could only remain silent with dumb face. Yuyan cooking and Yujin waiting for him. Yujin, who felt doubtful, recalled that today was the day when he and Yuyan were great in the past. But now, after Yujin turned back time, everything changed. He never even thought he could eat with his little brother again. Yujin then opened his status window. He never imagined that he could be awakened again. He even got the title of Dragon Slayer, which he thought would disappear when he decided to turn back time. After Yujin opened the title, he saw that the skill of the title really didn't make sense to him. He was even surprised to find that there was a legendary skill in this world. Because to his knowledge, the highest skill a hunter has is SS level skill. Yujin gets a lot of skills from his title. Apart from getting a lot of resistance skills, he also got a skill that allows him to deal twice the damage to enemies with the dragon element type. Yujin imagines that this is when he will become the world's strongest hunter and he can be cocky in front of his brother. Yujin thought that at this time, he would definitely be awakened to become a level S hunter. He immediately opened his status. However, what Yujin saw was that his status remained the same as before, a rank of level F hunter. the disappointed Yujin could only remain silent. Yujin saw that all of his previous skills remained the same as before he turned back time. Only the caregiver's skills have changed. His skill, which was only level E, is now a legendary level. He opened his sub-skills and was surprised to find that the buff he could give after saying the keyword was now double the target growth. Even if this skill is combined with his other skills, he can make his younger brother twice as strong. Yujin, who is too happy, finally fantasizes that this is the time for him to make Abby's the strongest guild in the world. But after seeing that his new keyword was to say I love you, Yujin became depressed. The keyword changed when he previously said it to Yuyeon. He imagined that if he said I love you to everyone, he would definitely be thought crazy and go to jail. Yujin's last skill is promising sprouts. He could see the optimal potential of every hunter. A skill that he thinks is very useful for recruiting hunters. Yuyeon then came and told Yujin to eat. While eating his brother's cooking, Yujin said that Yuyeon's cooking was very good. Yuyeon smiled and then said that his cooking skill was growing because he had to survive, especially when many people tried to poison his food. He thought that cooking alone was a good thing for him. Yuyeon looked at Yujin and then said that many people continue to disturb his life and find his weaknesses. Because of that, Yuyeon pretended to stay away from Yujin for Yujin's safety. But now he knows that his brother really loves him, and he promised to protect Yujin from now on. After they finished eating, Yuyeon said that he had work and wanted to go out. Yujin also stood up, but Yuyeon said that from now on Yujin couldn't leave his house and would stay there. Yuyeon said that Yujin would be under the protection of the Abbey's guild. Yuyeon explained that Yujin was previously safe because Yuyeon had cut off their relationship. But now that they are close again, surely the enemy will try to hurt Yujin. Therefore, Yuyeon made him under the strict supervision of his guild. Yujin gets annoyed and wonders if this is the effect of turning back time. His brother became very protective. Yujin, who didn't accept it, immediately ran and intended to run away. But when he opened the door, Yujin saw a big man there. He is Hunter Kim Songhan. He is the tanker of Abbey's guild. Songhan said that the guild master sent him so he wouldn't let Yujin leave the house. He even threatened Yujin to obey him. However, because of the effect of the fear resistance skill, Yujin is not afraid of Songhan. He even considers Songhan as a big bear. At that time, Yujin's promising sprout skill was active, and he saw that Songhan had the potential to become an S-rank hunter. The system explained that the target had not been affected. The system explains again that after being influenced by the Yujin skill keyword, the target can receive the optimal skill and can become an S-rank hunter. Yujin smiled slyly and thought of influencing Songhan so he could run away. But when he saw Songhan's scary face, he hesitated and finally failed. After a while, Yuyeon came and asked how Yujin was. Yujin said that he felt imprisoned and wanted to get out. But Yuyeon only said that he would make Abbey's the strongest guild in Korea so that no one would dare to hurt Yujin again. Only after that Yujin can be free. Feeling afraid that he will continue to be imprisoned, Yujin begins to think that he must find a famous hunter who will be awakened and then use them so that Abbey's can quickly become the strongest guild in Korea. He remembered that there would be a teenager who would be awakened to become a top-rank A hunter. After thinking for a while, Yujin convinced Yuyeon that he would look for an A-level hunter and make him Yujin's bodyguard. Yuyeon, who was suspicious, immediately asked if Yujin had been awakened. Yujin, who felt he couldn't be honest because his skills were too overpowered, finally admitted that he had just awakened. His skills could be used to see someone's potential to become a hunter. The skill level is only F and can only be used once a month. Yoon, who felt that it was not too dangerous, finally allowed Yoon. Yoon then determined that he would find a lot of S-level hunters to become his bodyguards. The next day, Yoon and Songhan came to the hunter agency to register Yoon as an official hunter. Then he went to the shopping mall to shop for equipment. He bought several hunter accessories and immediately went home to find hunters who could be used as bodyguards. Yoon remembered that there would be an A-rank hunter named Park Yerim. Yerim lived in the vicinity of the mall earlier, and she helped a relative who opened a restaurant after her parents died. She was awakened at the age of 18 and became one of the strongest rank A hunters in the past. After going around to various restaurants looking for Yerim, Yoon accidentally saw a woman who was arguing with someone else. He is sure that the woman is Yerim, the hunter he is looking for. Yerim, who was angry, ran, and Yoon immediately chased her. Emotionally, Yerim kept running until she didn't realize that a car was about to crash into her. Yoon, who saw that, immediately helped Yerim and saved her. After that, Yoon invited Yerim to eat. Yoon said that Yerim has the potential to be awakened. He said that he had a skill that could help someone awaken. Yoon proposed that he would become Yerim's sponsor and make her a hunter. Yoon pulled out a magic contract and explained that Yerim would become the Abbey's guild hunter and be his bodyguard. Yerim said that she wanted to sign the contract as long as she could be independent and live away from her uncle. Yerim explained that her uncle was the person who was supposed to protect her, but instead, she was being exploited. Suddenly someone shouted from outside the restaurant. That person was Yerim's uncle, and he immediately pulled Yerim. He told Yerim to work again, or else she would be beaten. Yoon, who saw that, immediately helped Yerim. When he saw Yerim, Yoon realized that all this time, Yerim had always been forced to work non-stop until she often starved. Yerim's shoes are no longer suitable for use and are very worn out. Yerim must have felt very depressed, so she said that she wanted to be independent and live without her uncle. Yerim even explained that her uncle took all the inheritance from her parents without giving her a dime. Yerim's uncle, who was annoyed, intended to slap Yerim. But Yoon slyly pretended to fall when he was pushed by Yerim's uncle. He acted like someone who had been beaten and looked in pain. The annoyed uncle immediately pulled Yoon's collar, but Yoon tripped him, so he fell. Yoon then threatened Yerim's uncle never to touch Yerim again. From outside the restaurant, the screams of many people could be heard. Songhan enters and warns everyone of the danger. He screamed and told everyone to run because there were monsters around there. The dungeon break happened in the middle of town, and everyone panicked. Songhan, as a tanker, immediately used his skill and told Yoon to get out of there immediately. Yoon became very confused because he was sure there had never been a dungeon break there. Songhan, as a veteran hunter, jumps and attacks the monster. While they were fighting, the monster used its skill and tried to attack the Yerim. Yoon, who doesn't stay silent, uses the table and makes it a shield to protect them. Yoon then grabbed Yerim's arm and took her running to the shelter. After telling Yerim to wait inside the shelter, Yoon intends to immediately go to Songhan and help him. Yoon knows that type of monster is very troublesome because it can only be defeated by a one-hit attack. Songhan, as a tanker, has no chance of winning. When Yoon was about to leave, Yerim stopped him and said that she would help, so Yoon had to make her awaken. Yoon refused Yerim's request because Yerim was too young, and the situation at that time was too risky for a newbie hunter that had just awakened. He left Yerim and immediately ran to Songhan. He told Songhan to use his barrier and shouted that he had a plan. Seonghan, who saw Yujin coming, told Yujin that he had to return because the situation there was very dangerous. The raging monsters were so powerful. Yujin confidently said that he had a plan. Yujin told Seonghan to use his shield skill again. At first, Seonghan doesn't want to listen to Yujin, but after being told the plan, Seonghan finally agrees to obey Yujin. He used his shield skill and confined the monster. Seonghan himself just found out that it turns out that his skill can be used like that, and it is thanks to Yujin. After the monster was trapped, Yujin immediately ran towards the monster. Previously, Yujin had purchased an A-rank poison item just in case of an emergency. And it was times like these that he could use the poison. Yujin plans to destroy the poison orb in Seonghan's barrier, and then Seonghan will close the barrier perfectly. The monsters trapped inside would be unable to escape, and would be poisoned to death. But when Yujin looked inside Seonghan's barrier, the monster had disappeared. The monster managed to escape and pulled Yujin. When the situation is precarious like that, Yerim suddenly comes and intends to help Yujin. Yerim hit the monster and distracted it so Yujin could run away. When Yejin and Yerim were running, Yujin asked why Yerim was there. Yerim was just an ordinary citizen. Yujin clearly said that Yerim was still too young and had not awakened yet. But Yerim can only say that she knows that. Therefore she needs Yujin's power so she can be awakened. Yerim felt that Yujin was a person who genuinely cared for her, even when her uncle ran away without caring about her. When monsters attacked Yerim, Yujin was the one who helped her. Yerim also felt angry with herself because she could only hope others could protect her. She really wanted the power to be able to defend herself. Yerim no longer wanted to be constrained by age and expected to be pitied by others. She wants the strength to be able to live to be herself. Yujin, who was touched by Yerim's words, finally grabbed Yerim's hand. That's when a miracle happened. The rise of a Korean ice queen who will be the most talked hunter in the next few days. The system explained that Yerim had awakened to an S-ranker. Yerim, who wanted to measure her strength, hit the monster. But what Yujin and Seonghan saw was crazy. The power of the S-rank hunter is beyond their logic. Yerim then picked a stick, and flew towards the monster. But because she still can't control her strength, Yujin can only yell so that Yerim doesn't go too far and instead hurts the people around her. Yujin, who saw Yerim, could only smile too. He didn't expect the hunter who used to be called the Ice Witch to smile like that. At that time, suddenly someone approached Yujin and used his black fire. Yuyeon came and helped Yerim kill the monster in one hit. Yujin, who saw that, called Yuyeon, but what Yuyeon did afterwards only scolded Yujin. But Yujin said that he had found a hunter who would become his bodyguard, an S-rank hunter named Park Yerim. Yujin then explained that he would be the custodian for Yerim. Yuyeon, who was shocked, could only protest. And Yerim, who heard that, was confused. Seonghan explained to Yerim that the custodian was the guardian of an awakened hunter who was still underage. In short, Yujin will be a temporary parent to Yerim. Surprised, Yerim said that Yujin didn't need to do that, and Yuyeon agreed. Yuyeon explained that there were many cases of high-level hunters disobeying and assaulting guardians, not to mention that Yujin was only an F-rank hunter. Yerim didn't accept it and said she would never hurt Yujin. Yujin, who was already too annoyed, finally got angry. He finally said that he would become the Yerim's guardian, and his decision was final. He shooed Yeon away and said that the guild leader should clean up the mess after the dungeon break, not talk to him. After Yeon left, Yujin told Yerim to sit down. He took Yerim's shoes and put them on Yerim's feet. He said the shoes were too worn out and Yujin would buy new ones for her. Yujin said that he wanted to be a guardian for Yerim because he knew what Yerim felt. When his parents died, he had no one who could help him. Yerim smiled and said she was happy that Yujin wanted to be her guardian. Yujin returned Yerim's smile, and said that he loved Yerim. Yerim, who heard that, could only laugh. At that time, the system explained that Park Yerim had been influenced by the keywords. Suddenly, from a distance, Yerim's uncle came. He asked if Yerim had awakened. Yerim replied that she had been awakened, and had made a contract with Yujin. His uncle is angry and doesn't accept it because Yujin arbitrarily makes contracts with minors. However, Yujin explained that Yerim, who was 15 years old, was already under a special law regarding hunters. Every hunter over the age of 14 can be independent. Yujin also said that he had footage and CCTV as proof that Yerim's uncle always exploited and committed violence against Yerim. Yerim's uncle, who was angry, immediately attacked Yujin. However, Yerim soon intervened and threatened her uncle. She said that she had been patient enough all this time, and if her uncle interfered anymore with her life or Yujin's life, Yerim would not stay silent. Since then, Yerim officially became a member of Abby's guild and became Yujin's bodyguard. A week passed. Yujin and Yeon talked with each other. They came to see Yerim, who was practicing. They were shocked to see Yerim's practice room, which was in ruins. Yujin watched Yerim's progress and could only be astonished. Yerim, who saw Yujin, came and greeted him. However, Yujin was even more surprised to see Yerim, who had changed entirely. Yerim explained that she had completely changed her style and cut her hair. Yerim also explained that now she has several new skills. She gets the Shadowless Day as crowd control and White Corpse, which functions is to draw out information from corpses. After that, Yerim went to the hunter's office and registered herself as the 8th rank S hunter in Korea. Yujin, who had terrible experiences with crowds and the media, could only watch Yerim from afar. Yujin recalled that so many things had changed. Yerim, who was supposed to be awakened at the age of 18, has now awakened at the age of 15. The Park Yerim that he remembered before had also completely changed. Yerim smiled a lot and very confident. Even a dungeon break that should never have happened suddenly appeared. Yujin, who didn't want to overthink, finally decided to use his skills and look for potential hunters. All he saw were low-level hunters there. But suddenly, Yujin ran and approached someone. Yujin pulled the person's hand. He thought that he would use his skill again to sharpen a diamond that had never shone in his previous life. A hunter with SS rank potential that never existed before he turned back time. Yujin greets a rank F hunter named Myung-woo. Yujin pretended to be his acquaintance. He saw the potential of Myung-woo, who could get an SS rank skill as a master smithy. Skills that focus on making weapons and equipment. A skill he never knew and a skill that had never awakened before. Yujin was sure that if Myung-woo awakened the skill, Myung-woo would become one of the most important hunters in the world. Yujin asked if Myung-woo had just awakened. Myung-woo agreed and said that he was only a level F hunter. He only registered himself as a hunter to get subsidies from the government. Yujin then invited him to get together to get basic education for hunters in his guild. But Seonghan came and grabbed Yujin. He said that only guild members could get basic education at Abby's guild. Myung-woo, who saw Seonghan, asked how Yujin knew Seonghan. Yujin then proudly said that Abby's guild master was his little brother. Yujin again invited Myung-woo to join him in his guild. Myung-woo, who didn't remember Yujin, tried to refuse, but Yujin still forced him. He said that Myung-woo deserved it. Myung-woo, who was touched, then cried very loudly. Yujin, who was surprised to see that, asked Myung-woo to sit down. Myung-woo then apologized because he had cried earlier. He explained that it had been a long since anyone had said he deserved something valuable. Since childhood, Myung-woo has been very good at making things. But when he grew up, his parents said it was all useless and told him to study and become an employee. But all of them went downhill from there. He has no talent for studying. His life was in trouble, to the point where he already had a lot of debt wrapped around him. Yujin just looked down. He said that he also knew what it was like to live like that. Even after he turned back time, everything remained the same. Hunters are distinguished in rank. Only hunters who are good at fighting and healers are accepted. If you are not one of them, you are just an F rank, both a hunter and within society. Yujin thought about what would happen to Myung-woo if Yujin didn't help him and knew about Myung-woo's extraordinary talent. Yujin stood up and said that he didn't care about other people's opinions. Who cares if other people can't see your true worth? This world is already hard enough to live in, even if you have confidence. Yujin encouraged Myung-woo and said his skill keywords. I love you, Myung-woo, and the system explained that Myung-woo had been influenced. Yujin thought that fate would run smoothly afterwards, but what happened was the rejection from the Abbey's guild team leader, Suk Sim-young. He asked how Yujin could invite a stranger to receive a guild education. He explained that guild education is the same as a reference for some promising individuals. How could he give that to trash of unknown origin? Myung-woo, who heard that, could only accept the harsh reality. Myung-woo ran while crying and got out of there. Yujin came to Myung-woo and said that the team leader was very cruel. He will contact Yoo Hyun and ask for his help. But Myung-woo refused. He said that he was pretty happy with Yujin, who encouraged him. Myung-woo said he was going home and would look for a job elsewhere. Myung-woo said that there was somewhere that offered him a job, and he would be picked up. A car came, and Yujin saw some thugs greeting them and going to pick up Myung-woo. Yujin, who saw it, could only feel a bad feeling that would befall Myung-woo if he joined the thugs. Myung-woo being threatened by thugs. They ordered Myung-woo to pay the debt. Myung-woo then gave the subsidy money he got when he officially became a hunter. Yujin, who saw Myung-woo gave his money and got into the car, panicked. Yujin asked if they were loan sharks, and where would they take Myung-woo. The annoyed thugs stared at Yujin horribly. Yujin, who was scared and didn't want to leave Myung-woo alone, finally decided to come with them. In the car, one of the thugs asked Yujin where he knew Myung-woo. Yujin explained that he was Myung-woo's friend and he was a level F hunter just like Myung-woo. Yujin said that he also needed money, so he went with them. The thugs explained slyly and told Yujin the job that will be given to them. The work is a magic crystal miner in dungeon. Yujin, who knows they are scammers who will give jobs to low-level hunters and make them pay 80% of their income as a protection fee. Yujin looked at Myung-woo and felt sorry. This job was very dangerous because smuggled minors like Myung-woo would not be given equipment and most likely be used as living shields. He thought maybe this is the cause why Myung-woo never able to awaken his SS skill. Maybe Myung-woo already dead in the past timeline. Not long after that, they all arrived at the office of the thugs. Yujin pretends to be happy because he can finally get a job. Yujin and Myung-woo then entered their office. Suddenly, one of the thugs kicked Yujin. They then beat Myung-woo. They said debtors like Myung-woo deserved to be beaten. Myung-woo, who was in pain, apologized to Yujin. He felt the burden of endangering Yujin, and bringing him there. A thug then pulled Yujin and made him sit down. He ordered Yujin to sign a magic contract. If Yujin violates the contract, he will get a level D curse. Besides Yujin, Myung-woo was forced to sign the contract. Yujin, who was annoyed to see that, took Myung-woo's contract and tore it up. At that time, the system explained that Yujin was cursed by a magic contract. But because of Yujin's legendary skill, the level D curse is useless. Yujin then beat up the boss thugs there. After that, Yujin took out his cell phone. It turned out that he had called and led Songhan to follow him since Yujin and Myung-woo got into the car. Songhan, who came immediately, beat the other thugs easily. He beat all the thugs blindly. Songhan, who had beaten up all the thugs, asked Yujin what he should do. Yujin said that he would repay their actions. He made a rank S magic contract and ordered the thug boss to sign it. He made a contract stating that 90% of their income would belong to Yujin for 50 years. The thugs who didn't accept it rejected the contract. They said it didn't make sense. But Yujin took out all the contract that was in their drawer. All the contract contained that F-rank hunters also had to pay them 90%. Yujin then kicked the thug boss and called him trash. Yujin threatens the thugs and says if they don't sign the contract from Yujin, the Abbey's guild will destroy them. After finishing dealing with the thugs, Myung-woo thanked Yujin while crying. Yujin calmed Myung-woo, and saying that he would continue to help Myung-woo as a friend. Yujin and Myung-woo then went back to the Abbey's guild. Yujin then made a scene in the guild and got Myung-woo a dorm in the guild. Yujin explained to Myung-woo that he would get a dorm when he received basic hunter education. But after that, Yujin suggested Myung-woo to become a housekeeper, and live with him. Yujin said that he didn't intend to make Myung-woo do the housework, he only meant so Myung-woo had a reason to stay with him. Myung-woo, who was touched, immediately hugged Yujin while thanking him. When Yujin was about to leave the house, he saw Songhan waiting for him. Songhan then asked Yujin to go somewhere. Songhan invited Yujin to go to a bar. Yujin asked Songhan why he took him there. Songhan just said that he wanted to apologize to Yujin. Songhan said that he used to think of Yujin as a pebble that always got in Yujin's way. But, he realized that he misjudged Yujin. He realized that Yujin was a good person. Songhan explained that Yujin had helped him when he was fighting monsters in Dungeon Break. Yujin also earned Yerim's trust, and became her protector, even willing to be in danger to help his friend. Yujin screamed in his heart that it was all just a misunderstanding. Yujin did it all for his own sake. But, Yujin realized that maybe that misunderstanding was a good thing. With this misunderstanding, he planned to influence Songhan with his skills. Yujin, who was happy, immediately raised his glass, and asked Songhan to get drunk that night. Songhan agreed to Yujin's invitation. While drinking, He told Yujin about his story. Songhan was awakened while protecting his grandfather. His parents died long time ago, and he was raised up by his grandfather from then. Songhan is very grateful to Yuyeon because he helped Songhan a lot. When his grandfather was still alive and ill, Yuyeon even hired a high-class hunter from abroad to try to heal his grandfather. Songhan said that the guild master is someone who understands the meaning of family in his life. Therefore Yujin must understand why Yuyeon is trying so hard to protect him. Yujin, who heard that, just smiled and said that he knew that. Yujin kept handing Songhan a drink cup while smiling slyly. He intended to make Songhan drunk so he could easily say "I love you" to Songhan. But he realized because of his poison resistance skill, Yujin couldn't get drunk. Yujin tried to turn off his poison resistance and hoped he could get drunk. When the skill off, Yujin was knocked out on the bar counter and felt very drunk. That was the last thing he remembered that day. The next day, Yujin woke up with a hangover headache. But what he saw next was something very surprising. Songhan entered his room carrying a bowl of water. Yujin, who was confused, immediately checked his skills. He sees that Songhan has been influenced. Songhan gave Yujin a hangover medicine while smiling. Seeing Songhan being too nice to him, Yujin became suspicious. Yujin then remembered that yesterday after he was drunk, Yujin confessed his love to Songhan. He was sure that he just wanted to say the keyword, but the way he did was like expressing love. Feeling incredibly embarrassed, Yujin immediately knelt down and apologized to Songhan. But Songhan said that he sees Yujin was like his grandfather when he was drunk. He thought the "I love you" that Yujin said was very similar to what his grandfather often did when he was drunk. Songhan said that he felt like taking care of Yujin, because he was reminded of his grandfather. Songhan also said he wanted to fulfill any regrets he have toward the one who raised him. Yujin suddenly remembered his perfect nurturer skills. The keywords he says will make the influenced object think of Yujin as the person of the one who nurtured them. And in Songhan's case, his grandfather overlaps with Yujin as his nurturer. When remembering the people he influenced before, everything makes sense. Maybe that's why they became very close to Yujin. The effect must be stronger in Yuyeon's case, since Yujin was already his nurturer. Maybe that's why he felt his brother became so obsessed with him. He suddenly felt scared. This isn't influencing, but a brainwashing skill. A skill that makes even S-ranks follow him without any doubt. A few days later, Myung-woo showed Yujin his cooking skills. He said that he would start cooking for Yujin every day. Yujin said that Myung-woo didn't have to do that, but Myung-woo insisted. He said cooking for Yujin is not a big thing for him. Suddenly the bell rang. Yujin immediately opened the door. What Yujin saw was the guild leader. He came and told them that hunter education started today. They were brought to the training ground and given a simple task to kill the monsters in front of them. The guild leader said that practical training would be held first, then theory education afterwards. The angry Yujin shouted that this was not basic training. Usually, they will only be assigned to kill monsters one by one, not all at once like this. But Yerim, who was basically an S-rank hunter, only smiled happily. She was happy to see all the monsters and immediately killed them. Yerim proudly said that they were really weak. In the control room, a woman came and said that this is all according to expectations. The level of a S-rank hunter was indeed cannot be underestimated, even though she was just a newbie. The guild leader greeted the woman. The woman asked if this training was too much for newbie like them. But the guild leader replied that she doesn't have to worry. In fact, he was more worried about Yujin and Myungwoo not getting a chance to fight. Unexpectedly, a monster managed to escape from Yerim, and immediately ran to attack Myungwoo. Myungwoo, who was scared, could only run while crying. Yujin, who saw that, immediately saved Myungwoo. Yujin explained that the monsters they were going to fight were only a rank F monsters. The monsters could only attack straight because their eyesight was so bad and narrow. Just by stabbing with a simple spear move, they can easily defeat the monster. The guild leader said that he wanted to see Yujin's true skill. Honestly, he was quite impressed with Yujin's abilities, who seemed very experienced and very calm. The guild leader also said that Yujin was very suspicious. Not only knowledgeable about monsters, the contract that Yujin made for Yerim was practically industry standard. He felt that Yujin was hiding something. In the training room, Myungwoo said that Yujin looked very experienced. He looks very extraordinary, like a hunter who has been active for several years. Yujin, hearing that, became aware. Not wanting to be suspected, Yujin pretended to be scared. The guild leader, who saw that, could only be speechless, and say that maybe his prediction about Yujin was wrong. When they finished training, Myungwoo felt very exhausted. In contrast to Yerim, who was very happy. The guild leader came and congratulated them on completing basic training safely. He said that Yerim passed perfectly, but Yujin and Myungwoo were hopeless. He then introduced a professor named Suk-hyen. The professor will be in charge of teaching them about theory education. Yujin, who saw Professor Suk-hyen, was shocked and said that he knew her. Yujin clearly remembered that the professor was a genius who went to America and discovered the principle of dungeon formation. The head of the Scientist Association, who has authority on the study of dungeons all over the world. Yujin then remembered the genius professor's nickname, Dr. White. Suk-hyen, who heard that, smiled and said that not many people knew about her nickname. Yujin said that he knew Professor Suk-hyen because he was very interested in the dungeons that Suk-hyen studied. Yujin is aware that currently Professor Suk-hyen is not well known. The professor said that Yujin was very interesting, just like what her uncle said. Yujin was very surprised to learn that Dr. White was the nephew of the guild leader. The professor said that she was in the Abbey's guild because there was research being done. Yujin then thought that this could be very profitable for him in the future. In another place, Yu Yond and Songhan were in the dungeon. They had succeeded in killing the boss monster there. But they are having a big problem with something. Yu Yond lifted the monster's arm and found a baby monster there. Yujin is now in the middle of studying hunter education. Dr. White explains that the world order rapidly changed after the first dungeon break tragedy. The Awakener has the power to change the structure of society. Primarily since the hunter found new elements in the dungeon. Technology is developing to the extreme level with magic stones as a new power source. Humanity quickly adapted to this sudden change, and started implementing new systems to manage the awakened. This was the beginning of the creation of hunter associations in every country. Professor Suk-hyen then explained the ranking of the awakens. Awakened ranks are determined by comprehensively considering their stats and skill rankings. Yujin, who was listening, thought Professor Suk-hyen's explanation was very easy to understand. However, several sections needed to be corrected in the textbook, as this was from 5 years ago. The development of knowledge about awakening before Yujin turned back time is enough to explain about awakened skills. Actually, the skill is formed because of aptitude and environment. Professor who saw Yujin doubted her curriculum, asked if Yujin felt something was wrong. Eugen uncomfortably said that he thought of saying that skill manifesting in dangerous situations to protect oneself is too much. There are other cases of awakened manifesting skills entirely unrelated to combat. Eugen firmly said that self-protection doesn't have to do with awakening. Moreover, the study was only based on dungeon break, whereas many other hunters were already awakened afterwards. Professor Suk-hyen, who heard it, became excited. She held Eugen's hand and said that Eugen was very smart, and had even done individual research. The scared Eugen gave a signal to Yerim. Yerim then asked about the fate of becoming an S-rank hunter like her. Dr. White then explained the minimum salary for an S-rank hunter was $10 million. S-rankers were so rare that one could even count on one's fingers in every country. Not only in terms of strength, but the byproducts they brought from S-rank dungeons were of astronomical value. Magic stones, rare flora and fauna, fruits, and sometimes even live magical beasts. After Eugen finished the day's lesson, Eugen was surprised when he entered Yuhyan's house. Eugen saw a monster cub from an S-rank dungeon. A monster called the Horned Fire Lion. The monster has high stats, is very fast, and has strong fire skills. It was a dangerous magical beast that even S-rankers had difficulty fighting with. Yuhyan explained he brought the baby monster to be tamed. But even with the owner's token, taming a high-level monster was not easy. Moreover, taming skill is a very rare skill. Yuhyan again used the owner's token and ordered the monster to come to him, but what happened was the monster intended to attack Yuhyan. When Yuhyan was about to strike back, fire attacks did not work on Horned Fire Lions. Yuhyan, who was annoyed, locked the monster in his garden. Yuhyan said that since he couldn't tame the monster, maybe he would kill it now. He explained that rather than someone else getting the monster, killing him was the right thing. Eugen thinks that killing the monsters would be a waste. Eugen saw the monster's skill and status were very high. However, he was sure that a powerful monster like the Horned Fire Lion could never be tamed, even in the future. At that time, the system suddenly explained that the monster had not been influenced by the keyword. Eugen, who was surprised, muttered that it turns out the skill can be used on monsters too, not just humans. Eugen smiled slyly and asked Yuhyan's permission to take care of the monster. He plans to use his skills so that the monster can become a monster for Yuhyan's mount. Eugen explained that giving up the rare opportunity of having a mounted beast as a rank S monster was a waste. Eugen said this monster was perfect for Yuhyan because of his fire resistance. Eugen believes that with the monster's power, Yuhyan will attain unapproachable power, and Eugen will receive tons of incentives as the one who tamed it. Seeing the monster, Eugen excitedly said that the first step was food. However, Yuhyan explained that besides meat, monsters also need magic stones at least C rank per meal. A 10 million won per meal. While the monster was eating, Eugen entered the garden. Eugen then took out his B rank belt and played with the monster. Eugen, who has experience part-time in a veterinary clinic, can easily make the cub monster to play with. But the level of monsters is indeed different from ordinary animals. Eugen then took out the owner's token and tried to tame the monster. The system explains that his skill, Perfect Nurturer, amplifies the effect of the owner's token. The horned lion that was affected by Eugen's skill became interested in Eugen. It acted cute to Eugen, but still fierce to Yuhyan. Yuhyan then ordered Eugen to raise the monster because it only obeyed Eugen. Hearing that, Eugen started dreaming of influencing a bunch of monsters and becoming a magic beast tamer. Eugen then intends to bring the monster to his dorm. Yu Hyan, who was sad to hear that he was going to leave, said that he thought he would live with Yujin like before. Yujin, who didn't want to be locked up by his brother again, said he would often come to Yu Hyan's house. Then Yujin said he would name it. Yujin picked Peace as the name. He hoped the monster should be full of love and peace. A few days passed, and Yujin, who was going to complete his basic education mission, was assigned to enter the dungeon. However, Yu Hyan, who is super protective, forces them to join the mission. Yujin then asked Myungwoo and Yerim to choose weapons. After selecting weapons and potions, they prepared to enter the D-rank dungeon. Yu Hyan gave him a gate stone so they could escape in emergencies. When Yujin saw the dungeon gate, he remembered when he was considered trash in the past. However, now he will enter the dungeon without debt, and be with people who care for him. Yujin smiled and promised to try hard to change his fate this time. Inside the dungeon, Yerim, who was seeing the contents of the dungeon for the first time, was stunned. But unexpectedly, Yu Hyan used his skills and burned a mountain there. Yerim, who saw that, became angry. She protested why the guild master burned a beautiful mountain. Yu Hyan explained that in the dungeon, they wouldn't know what was happening in the outside world. Therefore, as the strongest, Yu Hyan's job is to secure safety and make things progress faster. He again explained that hunters only see the dungeon as a place for new skills and leveling up over time. Yujin then said he was looking forward to what skills Yerim would get. But actually, he could choose a skill for Yerim with his skill. Yujin then chose Pale Rain because he was sure it was the signature area skill that Yerim used to have. Yu Hyan again explained that there is a big difference in Hunter rank S and below. The higher one's rank is, the more difficult it would be to level up. Yu Hyan said Yerim needs to focus on leveling up and not bother Yujin. Yerim, who was annoyed, then argued with Yu Hyan. As usual, Yujin started to get annoyed and separated them. Yujin said that Yu Hyan's job as a guild leader was to be a guide. And Yerim's job is to hunt and level up. So stop fighting and focus on their own mission. Yujin threatens not to want to see them again if they keep fighting. Forced by circumstances, Yu Hyan and Yerim shook hands and made up. In another dimension, something called out that a person who had turned back time entered a dungeon. Someone then said that she had to find out where that person was. He said they could only intervene when that person was in a dungeon. Then the screen showed that what they were looking for was Yujin. Back in the dungeon, Yerim and Yu Hyan are now getting along. Yerim herded the monster towards Yu Hyan, then he burned it. They sent the monster to Yujin and Myungwoo and told them to kill it. Yujin ordered Myungwoo to stab the monster to get the last hit. He also asked Myungwoo to collect magic stones. That time, Yujin looked at Myungwoo's status and confirmed that Myungwoo's SS skill could be awakened. Apart from needing level 10, another requirement is sharpening 10,000 edged claws. Yujin, who saw that, became confused. It's not tools, but claws, a typo in the system. On the other hand, Yujin, who needed clarification, wondered where the details of Myungwoo's skills that he had never seen in the system came from. Even in the future, nothing's been revealed about the system. People only said that it was a miracle from God. But how can a god make a typo? Are these things being written manually? Everything seems confusing for Yujin. It was then that an even more surprising thing happened. The system absurdly displays a notification that says "Found you, then I'm sorry." Yu Hyan suddenly shouted and ran towards Yujin. He and Yerim protect Yujin from a big attack. Yerim said that the dungeon boss had just attacked them. Yujin rebutted and said a D-rank dungeon monster boss wouldn't be able to make such a big attack. But what they saw next was the dungeon boss being eaten by a huge bird-shaped monster. Even though the boss of the dungeon had died, the existence of another monster that was stronger made the monster one-sidedly become the new boss of the dungeon. And they can only get out of the dungeon after killing that monster. Yujin became frightened. He remembered when a strange monster suddenly appeared in a low-level dungeon, making Yuhayan die. But knowing the identity of the monster, Yujin regained his composure. He said that the monster was weaker than Yuhayan. A rank dungeon boss called Golden Beakmia, a rank 2 bird monster with a fire attribute. Yujin explained that the beak is the primary weapon, and the weakness is the skull in the head. Yujin confidently said that they would get out of there alive. Yujin then ordered Yerim to create a barrier with her freezing skill. After that, Yujin ordered Yuhayan to kill the dungeon boss. Yuhayan immediately ran towards the monster. They fought fiercely. Yujin, who saw that, was confused because Yuhayan didn't want to fly and immediately attacked the monster's head. He then realized whether it was possible that, at this time, Yuhayan had not gotten his blue willow skill. But the next thing Yujin saw was Yuhayan using his blue willow leaves. But what Yuhayan is doing is so bizarre. Yujin shouted and said that Yuhayan should have jumped and stepped on the skill to be able to fly, not do weird stuff. Yuhayan, who heard that, obeyed Yujin. He became happy and said that this way, things would be easier. He immediately attacks the boss monster again and defeats it. Afterwards, Yuhayan said that Yujin was a genius. Yujin could think about making his skill an alternative to a flight skill. Yuhayan, who was very happy, continued to praise Yujin. When they came out of the dungeon, they were greeted by the panicked faces of the guild members. They said that the dungeon suddenly changed rank. Yuhayan then explained what happened in the dungeon. Seong-han, who saw Yujin, immediately came to him. He panicked and fell in front of Yujin while running. Myung-woo, who saw that, became gloomy. Myung-woo seemed to be thinking about something. Inside the guild, Yujin immediately headed to Peace's cage and asked him to play. Yujin then gave Peace food to eat and continued to play with him. After playing, Yujin recalled various strange things in the dungeon. The typo on the system and even talking to him via chat windows. Even the appearance of a rank A boss is very strange. Yujin panicked and wondered whether this was a butterfly effect from him turning back the time. This might be the reason why the system wanted to talk to him. However, Yujin screamed and said that it was none of his concern. The system should have explained all of that before it turned back time. He continued to say that even the system is way too unkind. If he knows, he won't choose the keyword as "I love you." But when he pressed the skill, the status window surprised Yujin. On the other hand, strange people say that the time they could intervene was too short. And it can't be helped, since they are unable to open the passage. They said Yujin could understand it even when they didn't give a detailed explanation. They are confident because they have made it as intuitive as possible. Yujin, who saw his skill become a roll book, was amazed. Yujin's skill in the form of a book shows Yuhayan and Yerim as S-rank hunters and 50 other empty columns. Yuhayan, who finished taking a shower, asked why Yujin looked pale. Yujin, who was in shock, could only say to himself that he couldn't possibly tell his brother about the mission he suddenly got. The mission that made him collect and raise 50 S-rank hunters. Yujin is now recording peace training. He showed that Peace could defeat an F-rank monster in one strike. Yujin revealed that Peace's growth was very fast. He grew twice as big in just 2 days. Because Peace is so strong, Yujin has to use various equipment to avoid getting hurt. Last night, Yujin was drinking with Yuyeon and confessed that he got an S-rank skill when he got to level 10. Magic Beast Tamer is the name of the skill that Yujin said. Because he's trying to hide his perfect nurturer skills, he thinks it's best to make an excuse and make a new skill for himself. He explained that his new skill allowed him to make a high-rank monster as a tamed monster. Yuyeon, who heard that Yujin had gotten an S-rank skill, turned scary and intended to lock him up again. The frightened Yujin reasoned that they should use the skills Yujin had instead of hiding them. With Yujin's skills, they can raise Peace and more beast mounts for all members in Abby's guild. With skills like this, the dynamics of dungeon clearing will completely change. After Yuyeon agreed with a heavy heart, Yujin immediately opened a training arena for Peace. Yujin thought that if he really got the mission to raise 50 S ranks as the system wanted, it would be better to brainwash monsters than people. Just then, the guild leader came and praised Yujin. He likes Yujin, who works hard and immediately trains monsters after completing practical basic education. The guild leader bowed to Yujin and said he was also very impressed with Yujin. He apologized for being rude to Yujin before. Without shame, he forced Yujin to join Abby's as an official member and made a big splash in the world of hunters. The guild leader explained that he would guarantee everything for Yujin as a magic beast tamer. Yujin, who felt above the clouds, explained that he didn't want to be a guild member. He plans to become an unaffiliated hunter, raise monster mounts for other guilds, and earn loads of money. Yujin felt that if he became a member of the Abby's guild, the other guilds would try their best to destroy Abby's and take him away. His skill as a beast tamer looks like a very tempting golden egg to others. He will become a freelancer who raises monsters for pay, and guarantees his safety and Yuyeon. The guild leader became even more impressed with Yujin. He said he would not be able to win if he argued with him. He then asked for peace training tapes for negotiating material with other big guilds. After leaving there, the guild leader said that Yujin lacked self-awareness. Those who acquire unique skills are mostly unaware of their surroundings. It's because they're drunk on power, and he has seen countless awakened like that. But Yujin calmly predicted the situation and managed to turn negotiations in his favor. Yujin has a lot of talent that he never expected. Was Yujin always this talented? The guild leader wonders if he failed to notice it sooner because he was blinded by Yuyeon's brilliance. The next day, while Yujin and Yerim were playing with Peace, Yuyeon called them. He said that the guild masters of the major guilds in Korea were coming. Yujin, who was shocked, immediately got ready for their arrival. Yuyeon explained that they were hunter rank S and were worried about Yujin. Yuyeon said that he had better refuse their arrival. However, Yujin denied this, and explained that this meeting had nothing to lose for both parties. They will also respect Yujin as a beast tamer. When Yujin entered the meeting room, he saw many faces of famous people there. The pressure that Yujin felt was unreal, but his fear resistance was active and made him calm again. Suddenly, someone approached him and asked him to touch Yujin's hand. Yujin reflexively gave his hand. But, when he found out that the person was a skill appraiser, Yujin immediately withdrew his hand and got angry. He was terrified because if others discovered his legendary skills, his life would definitely be in danger. Fortunately, Peace suddenly got angry and hissed at that person. The guild masters and other important people who saw that became interested. One of the guild masters stepped in and said that was enough. They don't need to check Eugen's skills. His behavior as a tamed monster that intends to protect its master is concrete evidence of Eugen's skills. The woman who helped Eugen was a breaker guild master named Moon Hyuna. Yuyeon, as the host, started the discussion by saying that he would trade the tamed mount monster in return for another magical beast. One of the guild masters there, Choi Seo-kwan, said that it didn't make sense. He said that Eugen was not unaffiliated, but was already under Abby's guild. Without fear, Eugen replied that what Yuyeon was doing was just an act of partnership with him. He only asked Abby's guild to help him negotiate and take care of the monsters. He will receive fees and magical beasts in return for raising mounted monsters. So, everyone there is free to negotiate and hire Eugen for his services. Moon Hyuna, who saw Eugen, said that she was interested in him. She recruited Eugen to join her guild. Yuyeon, who heard that, emitted his killing aura. Feeling scared, Eugen refused Moon Hyuna's offer and said he would not enter any guild except when Abby's became the best guild in Korea. Hearing that, Sung Hyunjae said that Eugen could enter his Jupiter guild now. Jupiter Guild is currently the best guild in the country. Not only the guild, but Sung Hyunjae himself can also be said to be the strongest hunter in Korea at the moment. However, Eugen smiled, saying that being the best guild in Korea only applies to his younger brother. In contrast, other guilds must be the strongest in the world to be able to recruit him. Everyone there laughed, and Hyuna said that Eugen's reason for remaining an unaffiliated hunter was hilarious. Eugen is grateful to have fear resistance, otherwise, the pressure in that room might have killed him. Eugen initially thought that S-rankers were only strong because they had overcome life-or-death situations before. However, it turns out that their aura and pressure are not a joke either. One said that Eugen was indeed Yuyeon's older brother. He is very similar to Yuyeon, only more docile. Eugen, who heard that, replied that it was all wrong. Yuyeon is more docile than him, and probably the most docile of all the people in the room. Eugen's words suddenly shocked everyone there. Eugen, who is confused, remembering the past when Yuyeon was little. Eugen said, even when he was young, Yuyeon always cared for Eugen. He's so kind and cute that it makes Eugen wants to do anything for him. Hearing that, all the guild masters there burst into laughter. Hyuna said that just now, Yuyeon was acting and pretending to be polite. The guild masters also said that Yuyeon's acting was compelling. After laughing heartily, Hyuna gave Eugen and everyone there the contract they had previously agreed to. Eugen saw the contents of the contract, and was a little surprised to see one part there. He asked what the meaning of the building in the contract was. The guild masters explained that Suk Simyoung asked them to build a building in Eugen's name to raise the monster. Eugen cried happily while remembering the guild leader who helped him. The contents of the agreed contract were to take care of Eugen's safety, prioritize the guilds that signed the agreement today, and construct the building in Eugen's name. Seeing the guild masters signing off, Eugen became very happy because everything was as he predicted. He will also get a building in downtown Seoul for free as a bonus. Eugen plans to build a workshop for Myungwoo, and a research facility for Dr. White. After the meeting was over, Eugen was greeted by food from Myungwoo. While eating, Eugen told Myungwoo to quickly pack his things. Hearing that, Myungwoo cried and fell on the floor. Myungwoo said that he knew it would end like this. He felt very useless being by Eugen's side. He said that even now, he has been kicked out by Eugen. Eugen, who heard that, was shocked. He asked Myungwoo not to go and didn't get any wrong idea. There was no way Yujin would pass up the opportunity to make Myungwoo his ally because of a misunderstanding. Yujin then acted and convinced Myungwoo that he wasn't useless, but he didn't get the chance yet. Yujin heard Professor Suk Hyun state that Myungwoo could get skills if Myungwoo tried. Yujin explained that Myungwoo is a hunter with a weapon-related support type. To awaken his skills, Myungwoo needed to start practicing with kitchen supplies. He had to sharpen the knife until he got used to it. While sharpening the knife, Yujin confirmed that it could really awaken Myungwoo's SS skill. Yujin then said that Myungwoo could obtain an amazing skill if he kept sharpening edged tools 10,000 times. Hearing that, Myungwoo became very happy. He will try to sharpen the knife diligently to learn new skills quickly. Yujin, who saw it, became proud of Myungwoo. After that, Yujin came to see Professor Suk Hyun. They exchanged opinions about dungeons. However, Yujin said his opinion was just a guess due to a lack of data. Moreover, Korea is a small country with very few dungeons. Hearing that, the professor agreed with Yujin's opinion. Professor explained that she also had no choice but to enter the overseas team. Yujin knows the reason why Dr. White is going to move countries. And after 3 years, she will discover the dungeon formation principle with her team, and America will receive massive royalties from all over the world. Suddenly, the professor brought out traditional Korean food. She explained that she was preparing it to offer to the dokkaebi. Yujin remembered that dokkaebi is a peculiar hunter who wears dokkaebi attire, or what we like to call Korean goblins. That hunter has never shown their name, age, or sex even before Yujin turns back the time. One thing he knows is their special teleportation skill. What makes dokkaebi famous is that they saved people from dungeon breaks and natural disasters. Even though this ability is actually very dangerous. They can go anywhere, and do anything, without being attached to anyone. Professor explains that she is looking for a way to summon goblins from the internet. Dr. White intends to ask them about all the dungeons in Korea. Yujin, who saw that, said that they weren't real goblins, so doing rituals would be useless. Instantly, there is a blackout there. Yujin turned on the flashlight on his cell phone. When he looked at the professor, all Yujin saw was a frightened face. He asked what was wrong. But suddenly, Dr. White screamed and fainted. Yujin then saw something scary and was saved by his fear resistance. He shouted and told the dokkaebi to stop scaring him. The goblin came out and said he only came because they wanted to see him. But he didn't expect that the professor would faint. Yujin, who saw the goblin, then used his promising sprout skill. The goblin was named Yoon, and he was a B-rank hunter. Knowing that, Yujin became coveted by the goblin. With the help of the dokkaebi, he would get information from many dungeons, which could be helpful for the professor's research. This is an opportunity for Dr. White not to move countries. Yujin then said that dokkaebi pranks weren't scary. Hearing that, dokkaebi became annoyed and was sure that Yujin was lying. Yujin knows that the goblin is a person who likes to play pranks and scare others. Yujin intends to trap the goblin by making a bet. Hearing that, the goblin felt challenged and agreed to Yujin's proposal. Yujin said if he got pranked and scared, Yujin would become the goblin's subordinate. However, if Yujin managed not to be afraid, the goblins would become his underlings. Yujin then made a magic contract, and ordered the dokkaebi to sign it. The suspicious goblin asked if Yujin was hiding something. Feeling that the goblin was difficult to deceive, Yujin used his signature move. He acted like he was a true dokkb fan. Dokkb is really cool when it comes to helping people and destroying criminals. Yujin really wanted to be the goblin's underling. Hearing that, dokkb was very happy and agreed to Yujin's contract. In the contract, dokkb will try to prank Yujin 3 times in a week. If Yujin gets scared within 3 tries, Yujin will become dokkb's subordinate. Not long after, Dr. White woke up. She immediately asked her the dokkb was. Yujin explained that the dokkb is already left. Disappointed, Professor Suk Hyun told Yujin that she has already hit a wall in her research within the country, so she wanted to overcome it with dokkb help. Hearing that, Yujin suggested that he would help her. Yujin will give the professor enough data to make it possible for her to carry out the research within the country. If the professor agrees, Yujin will ask for a share of the profits that will be obtained after she figures out the dungeon formation principle. Professor Suk Hyun explained that her research was not necessarily successful. Yujin then convinced Dr. White that she would definitely succeed. Since then, the dokkb has continued to play pranks on Yujin. The first prank failed. The second prank also failed. To be honest, the third prank almost made Yujin lose the bet, but fear resistance became a lifesaver for him. It was then, Yujin managed to get new subordinates who would be very useful later. Dokkb cried because he lost the bet with Yujin. He confessed that his subordinates scolded him for signing a contract carelessly. Yujin, annoyed to hear him keep crying, asked how old the dokkb was. Dokkb is not a child who still likes to whine. Answering Yujin, he said he is over 100 years old. The disbelieving Yujin told him to stop lying. However, the goblin replied that even dungeons and awakeners that could spit fire existed in this world. So, goblins also made sense to exist in the same world. Yujin suddenly realized something. Ghosts and goblins are more realistic than dungeons and awakeners. The dokkb then explained that he was 103 years old. Hearing 3 years, Yujin suspects that the dokkb was born with the system. Yun confirmed Yujin's opinion. Originally, dokkb were creatures that were born from an old object. When the gate appeared, the power of the dungeon permeated into him. It awakened him, who had been asleep for over 100 years. Since the dokkb name is Yun, Yujin thought that he should be a famous old watermill artifact at a Yun residence. Yujin then assigned the dokkb to investigate the dungeon in other nations. Foreigners are usually restricted from entering a dungeon, but it will be a piece of cake for dokkb. Yujin then promised that this assignment would make Yun a hero. They will discover the principle of dungeon formation and lessen the harm done by dungeons. After that, dokkb will become a great hero of the world. Deceived by Yujin, dokkb immediately complied with Yujin's order. However, the dokkb said his teleportation skill couldn't teleport to super long distances like to another country. Yujin, who knew that, immediately said the keyword to strengthen the dokkb with his skill. Feeling disgusted, the dokkb immediately ran away and left Yujin. Peace and Yujin were invited to a TV show a few days later. Peace was put in a maze and asked to find a way out. In an instant, Peace found a way out and hugged Yujin. Everyone there was bewitched seeing Peace's cuteness. Honestly, Yujin came to the TV station for his safety. Due to his magic beast taming, everyone became curious about him. As the most appropriate step, Yujin decided to introduce himself to the public and make himself known to many people. Yujin, who was still a bit traumatized by the public eye, was hesitant to be there. However, because Peace is so adorable, Yujin, who hears his pets being praised by many people, becomes full-headed. During the break, Yujin felt it was right to come there and show off Peace. It's a crime against humanity to keep such cuteness from Peace hidden. Yujin even thought of creating social media for Peace and making him famous when he grew up. Unexpectedly, the Breaker Guild Master came to Yujin. Feeling shocked, Yujin reflexively asked why Yuna was there. Yuna just replied that she was looking for reasons to be able to meet Yujin. Yuna then took Yujin somewhere. Feeling too close, Yujin told her not to stick to him too much. Yuna just replied that she didn't care because Yujin was the one who would raise her monster. Yuna then asked Yujin again to join her guild. Yujin still refused and said that the conditions he had remained the same. He will enter the Breaker Guild after the guild becomes the strongest in the world. Unpredictable Yuna suddenly cast her skills on Yujin. She made a barrier and locked them there. Yerim, who saw that, could only scream and call for Yujin. Yujin can't do anything. Yuna is indeed extraordinary. Her skill application ability to make a soundproof barrier is no joke. Even Yerim, who is also S rank, couldn't even react. Inside the barrier, Yuna asked Yujin to talk again. A resigned Yujin asks what they are going to talk about. Yuna said that it's about Yuyond. Hearing his brother's name, Yujin became hostile. Peace even meowed loudly. Yuna then approached Yujin, and said that Yujin had to look into his brother a little bit more. She laughed over during the meeting because Yujin's words dumbfounded her, but Yujin should know more if he plans to become a real hunter. Yuna asked if Yujin really trusted his brother. Do Yujin really think his kind brother became a guild master through his skill alone? Yujin denied it and said that Yuyond was not like that. But Yuna explained that angels couldn't trample on others to raise their own guild. He asked if Yujin wanted to hear what sort of life Yuyond lived as a hunter. Moon Yuna recount that after awakening as an S-rank hunter, she could no longer stay as an athlete, and ended up rising to the position of the guild master. She and Choi Sukwon partnered with conglomerates and climbed up from there. When she saw Yuyond, a high schooler trying to set up his own guild, he ignored every big shot that stretched out their hands toward him. She thought Yuyond was a mere brat who didn't know his place, and expected him to fall soon enough. After that, many people tried to kill him with poison and other cruel things. Funnily enough, Yuna was still in her innocent days, so she went to stop all of that. She thought Yuyond was still a child who didn't even have an identity card yet, so she thought it was too cruel to aim for his life. But when she came to the person who intended to kill Yuyond, what Yuna saw was a living hell. Yuyond ambushed them, and killed them blindly without mercy. Yuna felt stupid to think of Yuyond as a child. Since that day, Yuna saw Yuyond not as a human anymore, but as the child of a wild beast. The case was closed by using a gas explosion as an incident. In the end, the Abbey's guild devoured every single de facto power by making them kneel. Yujin, who heard that, turned pale. Yuna said that Yuyond had changed now, not the little brother he used to know anymore. Yuna approached Yujin and convinced Yujin that Yuyond was a monster and he was only pretending to be a gentle brother right now. Yujin would never know when his little brother started showing him his true colors. With confidence, Yuna said it was too dangerous to be close to his brother. Suddenly her cell vibrated. Yuyond, who knew about Yujin's situation, immediately called Yuna. Yujin just muttered that, apparently, Yuyond had to go through the same pandemonium too. Unmoved, Yujin snatched Yuna's cell phone and picked up his brother's call. Yujin said that Yuna was talking mad shit about Yuyond. Yujin convinced himself that Yuyond was still his younger brother. Yujin knows how this world works after experiencing this pandemonium for 5 years. He's not a naive person. It's not like Yujin doesn't have blood on his hand either. And what kind of brother would let go of his brother's hand after seeing Yuyond willingly die for him? Yujin angrily said that maybe he should talk behind Yuna's back too. Yujin has his weapon. He knows Moon Yuna's dark secret that everyone in the nation finds out 4 years later. Yujin said that back on the 2nd day of April at the Incheon store, Yuna did something. Hearing that, Yuna grabbed her cell phone. With a terrible face, she asked how Yujin knew that. Yujin explained that he just happened to know about Yuna's secret. Smiling slyly, Yujin explained Yuna deserved that after talking shit about his brother. An angry Yuna said that she misjudged Yujin. She tried to poke at him since Yujin seemed more innocent, but there shouldn't be a problem if other guild masters approached him. Yujin isn't as innocent and docile as he looks. Yuna took off the barrier and released Yujin. Yerim, who saw that, immediately approached Yujin. Yuna then whispered and threatened to kill Yujin if he spread her secret. Yerim, who was annoyed, immediately scolded Yuna. Seeing Yerim close to Yuna, Yujin reminded the future of the Breaker Guild. In the end, Yuna and Choi Seo-kwan are unable to bear this narrow country. Their guild will be disbanded in a few years. Yujin thought about whether he should recruit Yuna when that happened. He also needs another S-rank hunter to be influenced. Yuna indeed is a special hunter that is really strong. Yujin then continues the shooting. After the show was released to the public, Yujin, a magic beast tamer, and Peace, the first high-ranked monster to be tamed, was imprinted upon every citizen's heart. The next day, Yujin and Myung-woo went to the equipment management facility in Abby's guild. Yujin asked permission to use one of their rooms so Myung-woo could sharpen knives there. Upon opening the facility door, Yujin saw a huge fiery furnace. Many people were making equipment and another flashy thing there. Someone came and said that this was not a place for others to enter. Yujin then explained that they had received permission to use one of the rooms there. The person realized who are they, and then took them to a remote place. Annoyed, Yujin said that all of this was too much. This place looks like a closet. Seeing that Yujin was about to explode, Myung-woo prevented Yujin from making a fuss. People then looked down on Myung-woo and Yujin because they were only F-rank hunters, but could enter Abby's because of connections. Myung-woo touched Yujin's sleeve and said that this was normal. From their perspective, Myung-woo is just a pebble that's just lucky to be there. He's happy enough to be there, even only for sharpening tools. Myung-woo then started using the tools there and sharpened the knives they brought. The system showed that Myung-woo had sharpened 72 of the 10,000 edged tools. Seeing Myung-woo trying so hard, Yujin became touched. He remembered Myung-woo, who used always to humble himself. Myung-woo who is always scared. And Myung-woo, who always runs away from problems. But at this time, what Yujin saw was the face of a man with a burning passion. Not wanting to disturb Myung-woo, Yujin said goodbye and left. Yujin feels he doesn't need to worry about Myung-woo anymore because he thinks that this is where Myung-woo belongs. Become a blacksmith according to the fate he has. But what happened the next day was a disaster. Myung-woo, who was pushing himself too hard, had to rest due to extreme muscle soreness. And Yujin was forced to take care of a sick Myung-woo. On the other hand, the blacksmiths asked if Myung-woo came again today. However, they didn't find Myung-woo. They then looked down on Myung-woo and said that Myung-woo was just a freeload off his connections, and just pulled out when he thought it wasn't for him. Someone disputed that, saying they should see what a person they called a nepotist is doing. Myung-woo sharpened 1,000 knives in just one night. He was making everyone speechless in silence. After that, Myung-woo kept sharpening the knife and another edged tool for a week. Myung-woo's determination amazed everyone. In just a week, he managed to sharpen 5,600 knives. While in the facility, someone offered Myung-woo a towel. The person said the towel was made with magic stone materials, so it would keep Myung-woo cool. Hearing that, Myung-woo could only thank her. For the first time, he felt accepted to be there. That night, after finishing sharpening the knife, Myung-woo left the room and saw a magic stone on display. One of the blacksmiths came and told Myung-woo not to touch it. It was an S-rank magic stone and cost around 1 billion won. That magic stone is only preserved there and is very valuable. They are just leaving it since they don't know how to process it. He said it's truly a shame. Even the Abbey's Guild doesn't have anyone talented enough to process something valuable like that magic stone. He then asked Myung-woo if it was hard to be called a nepotist. He explained that the people there only judge people by their skills. They won't ever acknowledge anyone who wasn't chosen through the official procedures. But over time, they realized that everyone deserves a chance. He said that many staff liked the equipment that Myung-woo honed and told him it felt like a new thing. Myung-woo had the determination and skills to work with them. Hearing that, Myung-woo became moved and said that he would work harder. Myung-woo thought everything would go smoothly for him. Until one day, someone came to him with a panicked face. That person asked Myung-woo to go with them. Myung-woo, who was confused, asked what had happened. They only answered that their job was to investigate the disappearance of Hunter Han Yujin, and they wanted to ask Myung-woo some questions. Hearing Yujin's name called, Myung-woo became very panicked and pale. Myung-woo, who panicked, asked how Yujin could disappear. Yerim suddenly came and asked the same thing as Myung-woo. Investigators said they couldn't confirm anything yet. Myung-woo stated that he would help find Yujin. But they said that Myung-woo should stay here. Myung-woo couldn't help anything. A few hours earlier, Yujin, who was relaxing, tried to ignore the piece that was playing while destroying his dorm. Yujin called peace and intended to take him to practice. When he opened the door, he saw a bodyguard on guard. After finishing negotiations and signing the contract, the big guilds sent bodyguards to take turns guarding Yujin. And today, the one guarding it is a bodyguard from the MKC Guild. Yujin stepped into the elevator and said he was going to the training room. After going down several floors in the elevator, the door opened, and some people entered. Yujin looked at their rankings and realized they weren't from Abbey's Guild. Yujin, who was curious, asked where they came from, and then they replied that they were from Bricks, a guild under Abbey's. They explained that they were tasked with carrying the armor and stuff they had borrowed from Abbey's. Yujin muttered that they were very suspicious. When they arrived at the Peace practice room, Peace bit a rope and asked Yujin to play. Unexpectedly, from behind Yujin, someone scatters some powder toward Yujin. the system explained that Eugen's poison resistance was active. At the same time, Peace, who was inhaling the sleeping powder, finally fainted. These people then covered Eugen and asked why Eugen was still conscious. Eugen recognized them from the Bricks Guild. He was in the elevator earlier. Feeling cornered, Eugen kicked one of them and ran away. He ran to his bodyguard, who was guarding the door. But again, something surprising happened. The bodyguard hit Eugen and made him fall. The bodyguard asked why they couldn't work properly. The bodyguard ordered his subordinates to take off all the items Eugen was wearing. Because Eugen's earring was forcibly removed, he ran out of mana and finally fainted. What Eugen remembers afterward is that he splashed with water, and woke up with his hands tied. A man he didn't know greeted him with an evil face. The man grabbed Eugen's hair. He threatened to kill Eugen if Eugen didn't hand over the peace token's owner to him. The man then said that Eugen shouldn't think that anyone was coming to rescue him. Because the man kept asking for the owner's token, Eugen was sure that Peace was still alive and was there too. Without feeling afraid, Eugen said that men sure are carefree. 5 big guilds and the association won't stand silent if he's touching Eugen. The thug laughed and said that it didn't matter. He showed his cell phone, which showed that the bodyguard whose job was guarding Eugen had sent a message that no one knew Eugen had been kidnapped yet. Even if they find out soon, it would be hard to find that place. He said they were in a container on the Big Quay. They'll already be on a ship to Japan by the time they're searching for Eugen. He said that he would auction Eugen in Japan in return for Japan's assistance that backed him. Eugen began to understand the situation. Since they can't touch Eugen within the country, they're just selling him overseas. They aimed all that and joined forces with that bodyguard and Abby's affiliate guild. Even when all the big guilds and associations find out that Eugen is on the way to Japan, things will be complicated after he crosses the territorial water. Eugen knows he must stall as much time as possible before that happens. Eugen laughed and said that he was not afraid. He knew that his life was precious because he would be auctioned, so he was sure that man would never hurt him. Without telling, that person kicked Eugen and said that Eugen didn't know his place. That man stepped on Eugen's leg and said it was true he couldn't hurt Eugen. But the other things can hurt him in a different way. The man dragged Eugen into a place and threw him in the corner of the room. He said that they had another monster that Eugen had to raise. Seeing the monster, Eugen became frightened. The person smiled and said it was a C-rank monster called Creek. It curses its prey with poison from its tentacles. The curse won't kill Eugen, but it's enough to torture him. The man said he would make Eugen aware of his current position after 30 minutes of being in there. He closed the door with an evil smile. Elsewhere, Yerim came to Yuyond and grabbed his collar. Yerim shouted, asking how the protection of Abby's guild, which he said was absolute, couldn't even protect Eugen inside it. Yuyond said that this happened not because of betrayal from Abby's or hunters below another S-ranker guild. Apparently, someone from within the MKC guild arranged for the bodyguard schedule changes and sent someone else over. The MKC guild, which is funded by a conglomerate, makes it vulnerable to the interference of money-hungry people. Those among the conglomerates behind MKC found out about Eugen's existence and acted alone, then made a big mess. That much shows the control that Choi Soo-kwon lost from his own guild due to being pushed out by his sponsor. Yuyond expected 2 factions to clash soon, but he never expected they would join forces with Abby's affiliated guild and kidnap Eugen. Yuyond said that now he needs Yerim. Yuyeon asked Yerim to use the white corpse to read the memories of the dead bodyguard. Yuyeon told Yerim to find where Yujin was being held captive immediately. He emphasized to Yerim to keep this a secret from Yujin. At the place where Yujin was kidnapped, the thug started to get suspicious since he didn't get any messages from the bodyguard. Doesn't care at all, he immediately goes to Yujin and asks if Yujin had fun. But what he saw was Yujin passed out on the floor. The man said that the curse from the monster should have never let Yujin even faint. Yujin suddenly looked up and shouted to Blackie to do what they had planned. From behind, a monster attacked the man with its tentacles. The monster wrapped around him and used his curse skill. The monster came to Yujin's side and followed Yujin's orders. Yujin said that he could also raise a grown-up monster as a secret card, not just an infant monster. 30 minutes ago, when Yujin saw the monster, he was anxious and wasn't sure that he could beat it. But because of his poison resistance, Yujin might survive if he's lucky. Yujin then took out a knife from his inventory. When he was about to fight the monster, it turned out that the monster actually stepped back and moved away from him. Yujin, who was confused, asked why the monster seemed afraid of him. The system then explained that the effect of the Dragon Slayer was active. Yujin's sub-skill Roctor's natural enemy makes Yujin's strength double when fighting Creek the monster. Yujin then remembered that the Dragon Slayer influenced another dragon-type monster to be afraid of him. Yujin threw away the knife and realized that the effects of his skills also affected Perfect Nurturer. That makes Yujin's influencing power become twice as strong too. Yujin takes out a magic stone and intends to influence the monster to obey him. Back to now, Yujin said that he made new friends thanks to the man. Yujin named the monster Blackie and then ordered Blackie to bite the criminal. The criminal, who was also a hunter, immediately flung Blackie's tentacles, but without realizing it, Yujin approached and stabbed his hand with a knife. The annoyed man immediately beat Yujin and sent him flying. Yujin just laughed and said that thanks to Blackie's curse, even a regular knife could injure a B-rank hunter. Feeling cornered, he took out his weapon and shouted that he would kill Blackie. With one attack, the man who basically has an advantage rank above Blackie can kill him easily. He laughed evilly and sneered at Yujin because he thought a weak monster like that could beat him. Yujin, who saw that, became angry. The man suddenly felt something strange. He collapsed and felt a powerful curse. He looked up and saw Yujin release his tentacles. The system explains that Yujin's skill is active, and Yujin inherits twice the strength of Blackie. Thanks to the Roctor's natural enemy, the skill's effect doubled the power that Yujin got. With a heartless face, Yujin explained that now he had 4 times the power of Creek. The curse that Yujin gave will pack quite a punch to that man. Yujin said since he just did the same thing that man did to Yujin, this was considered self-defense. Yujin touched the man's face and asked why he bothered people who just wanted to live quietly. He again asked where peace was being a hostage. The man fearfully said that Yujin was a monster and would kill Yujin later. Seeing that, Yujin, who was filled with rage, cast another Blackie skill and killed the criminal. He said that his skill must not be revealed. Yujin never thought he would have to kill anyone in this timeline. Because he knew Yerim could read the corpse's memory, Yujin melted the corpse and said it was okay because that person was just trash. When he left the room earlier, Yujin felt he couldn't control his strength. Moreover, the duration of the skill he obtained was now 7 days. It was very different from before. Formerly, the skill would only last a few hours after inheriting the power. He checked Blackie's skills and found a helpful skill for now. A skill that can make him use stealth to sneak around. He activated the skill and immediately went around looking for peace. When Yujin passed some criminals there, he used the tentacles in his stealth mode. He strangled them and killed them all in an instant. He then broke the door in a room that looked the biggest. Someone in that room was surprised to see Yujin, who was free, and walk away. Yujin asked him to hand over peace, but what happened was that person threatened Yujin. He said that a mere F rank like Yujin had no chance of beating a C rank hunter like him. The person named Park Sang-hoon took out his axe, and intended to attack Yujin. Without him noticing, Yujin's tentacles slapped his face and made him fall. Yujin kept forcing the person to hand over peace to him. After being beaten, he asked if Yujin had hidden any of his items or skills. How could an F-rank hunter be that strong? Yujin, who felt bored, took the man's axe and melted it. He threatened to kill the person if he did not want to give peace. Frightened, the man mentioned where peace was locked up. Yujin also asked the person to give him the key to the peace prison. But that person said he would give it after Yujin signed the magic contract. He asked Yujin not to kill him as a condition after he gave him the key. Without hesitation, Yujin signed the contract. After Yujin got the key, he was suddenly attacked by the bad guy. He strangled Yujin's neck and said Yujin was too stupid. He will kill Yujin when Yujin is trapped in a contract and cannot touch him. If Yujin forcefully attacks that person, Yujin will become blind due to breaking the magic contract. Hearing that, Yujin was silent. He then tore the magic contract and released a curse that would make him blind. However, the system explained the curse had been nullified due to legendary curse resistance. Without a blink of an eye, Yujin killed the person earlier and melted it in a second. Yujin walked casually and convinced himself that without evidence, no one could predict that he did everything that happened there. While passing through the Blackie room, Yujin approached the monster's corpse and felt pity. Yujin melted down the monster because he was sure that if he left it alone, the corpse would only be used as material for various equipment. Yujin then took the magic crystal that had fallen from inside Blackie's body as a memorial. He then went to the peace prison and hugged him. Yujin will pretend to be cooped up there and wait to be rescued to avoid suspicions. He looked at Peace and said that he already loved Peace and promised to protect him. Several hours later, one of Abby's guild members shouted that they found Yujin and Peace in prison. Yuyond heard that, and immediately ran toward Yujin while shouting his name. Feeling Yuyond coming, Yujin looked up to see Yuyond. He asked if Yuyond had come to save him. Seonghan and Yerim also came and asked how Yujin's condition was. Yujin then stood up, saying that he was fine. But without realizing it, his foot was sprained and he was in a bit of pain. Seeing Yujin in pain, they all looked panicked and said they would immediately call a healer to treat Yujin. Yuyond with coolly held Yujin like a princess, and took him to the car after being treated. In the car, Yujin listens to Yerim saying that she and Seonghan will be there to investigate and clean up the rest. Yuyond explained that even though Yujin's leg had healed, he still had to get treatment and go to the hospital. Feeling that his status had risen dramatically since Blackie died, Yujin knows if he went to the hospital, his status could be discovered. Yujin then reflexively acted and said he would get a panic attack if he met strangers again in the hospital. He wanted to go home and rest comfortably. Seeing that Yujin was a little traumatized, Yuyond agreed to Yujin's proposal and asked the driver to return to the guild immediately. Yuyond saw Yujin and rechecked his condition. But he said there was something strange. He smelled some sort of reptilian stench on Eugen's body. Surprised by his brother's crazy sense, Eugen activated his stealth skill and said that he didn't smell anything, and that it was just Eugen's feeling. Since then, the MKC Guild was relieved of its obligation to provide bodyguards for Eugen. Visitor inspection became much stricter than before, especially for the bodyguard. The guild masters informed the bodyguards information directly to abbeys whenever they were dispatched. That night, Eugen dreams of the day he is kidnapped. He wakes up from his nightmare and remembers what happened. Eugen then realized that it was Blackie's memory before he died. The skill will create memory fragments, and make Eugen feel everything. Eugen wondered how he could forget when he used to feel that often before he turned back time. When passing Myung-woo's room, Eugen asked where Myung-woo was. It's the middle of the night, Myung-woo should be resting by now. On the other hand, Myung-woo is now in his office. He kept sharpening the knife and muttered this was his 9,908 knives. But Myung-woo threw the knife away and hit the table. He said he was pathetic. What's the point of doing something like that? Even after Eugen got kidnapped and fell into danger, he couldn't do anything for Eugen. He remembered when Eugen was kidnapped, everyone said that Myung-woo didn't have to do anything. Even after being investigated, no matter how thoroughly people investigated, Myung-woo had no contact points with Eugen. Even though when Eugen confidently called him an old friend. Abby's investigators said they didn't know what sort of mistake there had been, but how could they leave anything for Eugen's sake to an utter stranger? Myung-woo sobbed while muttering that he not only knew nothing about Eugen, he really was nothing. He felt useless to be able to live with Eugen. The next morning, Eugen called Eugen in a panic and said that Myung-woo had run away from the dorm. On the other hand, Myung-woo was walking sluggishly. He continued feeling unworthy of staying by Eugen's side, who wasn't even his real friend. Myung-woo, who looked down, saw his shoelaces untied. When he was tying his shoes, Myung-woo's luggage fell and scattered on the road. Feeling annoyed, Myung-woo thought that he was very unlucky. Suddenly, two children approached him. They saw Myung-woo's ID card and said that Myung-woo was really cool because he was a hunter in Abby's guild. Myung-woo, who was surprised, said he was just an F-rank hunter and only a housekeeper in the Abby's guild. Disappointed with Myung-woo's answer, the two children said that Myung-woo was worthless. They had heard from their mother that F-rank hunters were useless because they couldn't enter high-class dungeons, couldn't earn a lot of money, and didn't have combat skills either. Hearing that, Myung-woo became even more depressed. He imagined Eugen and the members of the Abby's guild leaving him because he was useless. Myung-woo suddenly cried and surprised everyone there. Feeling that they were the ones who made Myung-woo cry, the two children asked Myung-woo to follow them. They said they would help Myung-woo get good skills. What happened next was torture for Myung-woo. He was told to do various crazy things. Until when Myung-woo was ordered to cross a street full of cars, Myung-woo pulled the two children and told them to stop doing all of this. Myung-woo said that what they were doing was dangerous. However, the sister replied that they only intended to help Myung-woo. They explained that skills are supposed to appear when your life is in danger. Hearing that, Myung-woo began to understand the current situation. He looked at the two children and asked if they always did something like this every day. They replied that they did various things like this daily. They confidently say that studying at school is useless. Everyone says that being a combat hunter is the best job ever. From a distance, suddenly many people scream. Myung-woo got a warning message about a nearby dungeon break. However, what the two children did was a joy. They ran happily and said they would become hunters in the dungeon. Myung-woo, who saw that, immediately ran after them and said that it was too dangerous. At the place of the dungeon break, a large spider appeared. A reporter from the helicopter said that the dungeon break occurred due to a gate that formed in an abandoned mall and wasn't found. The reporter was suddenly surprised to see two children and a man who was Myung-woo running in the middle of the dungeon break location. They ran because many big spiders chased them. All Myung-woo can see is chaos and dead victims. Myung-woo yells that because of the two children, he will die that day too. Just then, a big spider suddenly jumped toward them. But the older sister came forward and said she would protect everyone. She used her skill, but nothing happened. She was then hit by the monster and flew away. She fell and looked shocked, and she couldn't move at all. Seeing that, Myung-woo immediately grabbed them both and took her away. They ran towards a staircase and looked for a place to hide. But the older sister just told Myung-woo to leave her. She cried and said everything was over for her. She claimed to have been awakened, but only became an F-class awakener. The younger brother screamed and pointed at the approaching spider monster. Myung-woo shouted, telling them to run to the roof immediately. Seeing Myung-woo's legs shaking because he had to carry her, the older sister said that Myung-woo had to leave her there. She said an F rank like herself wasn't good enough to save. It's not worth saving her while risking Myung-woo's life, so she asks him to leave and go away. Hearing that, Myung-woo realized something and took a knife from his bag. Trembling, he told them to flee because he was about to fight the monster. Myung-woo said they shouldn't say things like their lives are over, or they should be left behind. Aren't there so many other things they can do, even if it's not to be a high-ranked hunter? Myung-woo said that every life has value, so he would save them both. Seeing Myung-woo's confidence, the two children obeyed him and ran to the roof. After they left, Myung-woo, who had been acting cool before, attacked the monster while crying. He was sure his weak self would be unable to fight the spider. The monster then attacked Myung-woo. Myung-woo bounced and was thrown out the window. In his heart, Myung-woo said that as he thought, he was not good enough. When he resigned, he saw Yujin flying from above and coming to him. Myung-woo thought he felt so guilty towards Yujin that he saw him flashing before he died. However, the Yujin he saw was not an illusion. Yujin told Myung-woo to hold his hand, and Myung-woo reflexively held Yujin's hand. Myung-woo said inside his heart that in the end, Yujin was the one who would always come to save him. After that, Yujin took out his tentacles and ran away from there. Seeing everything, Myung-woo was shocked and asked why Yujin had tentacles on the back of his body. Not wanting Myung-woo to know about his skills, Yujin made Myung-woo faint in an instant. The thing that Myung-woo remembers afterward is that he woke up in a familiar place. He looked at the TV in front of him, which stated that the two children who were with him before had been rescued. At that time, Yujin came in and asked if Myung-woo was fully awake now. Seeing Yujin, Myung-woo asked if Yujin was the one who saved him, and used tentacles that could make him fly. Panic, Yujin denied it and said that Myung-woo was dreaming. Yujin explained that it was the Abbey's guild who came and saved him. Yujin suddenly got angry and grabbed Myung-woo's collar. He shouted about why Myung-woo could be in such a dangerous place. Myung-woo was lucky because a camera managed to spot him. What did he think would have happened if that camera wasn't there? Yujin said he was very worried about Myung-woo and thought he would never see Myung-woo again. Hearing that, Myung-woo cried and felt the fog repressing his heart has finally lifted. Hesitantly, Myung-woo asked if Yujin would accept him even after he got the skill useless after sharpening 10,000 blades. Yujin, who was angry, asked if the reason why Myung-woo ran away was something useless like that. Yujin said that Myung-woo was decent enough to work there. Myung-woo was even scouted at the equipment management facility. Therefore, Yujin said he couldn't live without Myung-woo's meals again. Myung-woo, who heard it, could only laugh. He felt that he finally understood. He should never feel timid or anxious. Because Yujin, all along, would always be there to help him. Myung-woo steadily stepped into his workshop and sharpened the knife again. He remembered, a long time ago, when he was trying to kill himself by slitting his wrist with a cutter, the system told him that he was awakened. After receiving a small subsidy from the government, he intends to pay a small portion of his debt. He never had any expectations in the first place to be a high-class hunter like Yerim. He never thought of becoming a protagonist. It is a life with nothing to show, like he always walks in the dark mud. He doesn't know anything besides breathing. Even if Myung-woo's life manages to be extended from a measly awakening, there's absolutely no reason for him to stay alive. But something Myung-woo never thought happened. Like a miracle, Yujin took him from the darkness and became someone very precious to him. Yujin smiled and continued to help him. At first, Myung-woo was dubious. He was anxious as much as he was thankful. Myung-woo doesn't know how to do a lot of things like Yujin, and doesn't have strong power like Yuyeon or Yerim. Even while sharpening knives all night, he couldn't imagine himself gaining an amazing skill at all. But, when he heard the girl telling him to go and leave her to die, Myung-woo realized that he was always wrong. From the start, Yujin never looked at him with contempt because of Myung-woo's skill. He never forced Myung-woo to do anything that Myung-woo didn't like. Myung-woo said firmly that he would answer all the opportunities Yujin gave him. Yujin believed Myung-woo, even when Myung-woo couldn't believe in himself. So starting from now, Myung-woo won't be anxious anymore. He starts to realize that he wants to become stronger. Not like Yujin or Yerim, but strong with the things he can do. To be strong in his own way. When Myung-woo finished sharpening his last knife, he let go of all his dark past. The system shows the answer to the trust that Yujin has placed in him. Myung-woo has obtained the SS-class skill, Master of the Golden Smithy. The system gave him a way to be stronger. The next day, a blacksmith asked her the magic crystal usually displayed was. She thought the magic crystal must have been stolen. However, someone said that the magic crystal had found its master. And she would hear news about it any minute now. In a recording, Yerim is flying in a dungeon. She wields an exquisite ice elemental weapon. Yerim said she would start doing the first test of the weapon that Myung-woo made. Yerim used her powers and aimed her skills at a lake. Upon seeing the lake, Yerim became shocked. She saw the powerful effect of the weapon's power, when she only used a little of her strength. Someone said that this was confirmation of the strengthening effect of the S-class weapon that Myung-woo made. The 16th S-rank weapon was created, which was not a dungeon reward, but was created by human hands. The Korean Hunter Association also guarantees the authenticity of the S-rank weapons. A reporter asked what is the highest class of weapon that Myung-woo could make. Myung-woo answered there was no limit to the class of gear he could produce. But he first needed more experience and incredible material to make SS class and higher. Hearing that, Seong-han said that Myung-woo was amazing. He might need a new bodyguard for Myung-woo. Yujin replied that Myung-woo had become stronger now, and Seong-han didn't need to worry about him anymore. Yujin explained Myung-woo rose his status while he created the weapon. And now Myung-woo is around C class. That's why Myung-woo looks very healthier now. A shocked Seong-han said that it was the first time he had heard of such a thing. Yujin could only smile a little and be proud of Myung-woo. 3 hours ago, Yujin was very surprised to hear that Myung-woo could make S-rank weapons after awakening. Myung-woo explained that he happened to get some decent materials among the pile of materials from his subspace pouch. It contains a ton of S and SS class materials that he can use freely. Seeing the craziness, Yujin couldn't control his expression. Myung-woo continued that he was even given a production encyclopedia to make weapons. Knowing this, Yujin became depressed. He cursed the system that only gave simple descriptions of his legendary skills. Myung-woo asked if Yujin wanted to see his smithy. Myung-woo said that it turns out that the skill Golden Smithy is not just a skill name, but a real smithy. Myung-woo then stretched out his hand and invited Yujin to enter. Yujin took Myung-woo's hand, and thought that Myung-woo's skills were extraordinary. He thought, doesn't a protagonist usually own this kind of skill in a novel? Yujin was amazed to see the contents of Myung-woo's skill inside the Golden Smithy. The place is huge and has beautiful wood carvings adorning the smithy area, adding to the luxurious feel. Yujin then saw the fire there and was surprised because he didn't see any fuel. Suddenly the fire grew bigger and alive. Myung-woo patted Yujin's surprised shoulder and said that it was a fire spirit. The fire talked and greeted them. Myung-woo smiled while telling Yujin that the fire spirit's name was his manhwa. It was a gift prepared by the past master so Myung-woo could learn everything from the basics. Myung-woo said that he didn't know who the past master was. However, the past master even prepared bouquets and greeting cards for his successors. Myung-woo said that the writing on the card was not a character from the earth, but strangely Myung-woo could read it. The letter contained the past master welcoming Myung-woo and blessing him. Yujin began to think silently. Traces of civilizations are discovered in dungeons sometimes. People said some dungeons mimic the ruined world. That's why they kept saying another world and a different civilization must have existed somewhere. Yujin wonders if the master of this smithy exists in another world from the past. And they leave all of this for the possessor of the skill for the next era. While in deep thought, Myung-woo gave the bouquet to Yujin. He said he would continue to be with Yujin and keep following him. Hearing that, Yujin became overjoyed. It's all according to his plan. Dr. White and Myung-woo are now following him. But Yujin looked down. He said that Myung-woo didn't have to do that. Yujin said that all this time, Yujin had been hiding something from him. Yujin explained that he actually didn't know who Myung-woo was in the past. Yujin was mistaken, and they never met once. Yujin convinced Myung-woo not to care about him anymore because Myung-woo had just been pushed alone by someone who he didn't even know this whole time. Yujin thought that instead of forcing Myung-woo to be by his side, he would rather let Myung-woo go to the way Myung-woo really wanted. Myung-woo only smiled and still gave the bouquet to Yujin. He says that he will stay here, do what he wants, and do what makes him happy. Back to the present, Myung-woo officially gave the weapon he made to Yerim. Receiving that, Yerim became very happy. Seong-han asked if Myung-woo would become independent like Yujin. Yujin replied that he just wanted Myung-woo to do whatever he wanted. And maybe even go somewhere better. On stage, Yerim thanked Myung-woo for the S-class weapon. Yerim also thanked Yujin, who always supported her. Hearing his name called, Yujin choked. Myung-woo also said that everything happened thanks to Yujin. And Myung-woo already considers Yujin as his benefactor who has given him a lot of help. Feeling everyone staring at him, Yujin panicked. Seong-han just smiled and thought Yujin was very clueless. Yujin didn't realize that Yerim and Myung-woo even declared that if they touched Yujin, they wouldn't even receive a single scrap. Seong-han thinks Myung-woo and Yerim have already acknowledged Yujin as their family, who they want to protect. Several days passed. Yujin, who felt bored, looked at Peace, who now looked lethargic. He wondered whether Peace became dispirited because of the shock when he was kidnapped. Want to make Peace more energetic, Yujin planned to take Peace to the practice room. Yujin came out of his dorm, and someone greeted Yujin. She is Yujin's bodyguard today, Hunter Kong Soyoung. She's an A-class hunter from England who the Jupiter Guildmaster recruited. She has enough talent to be recruited by Sung Hyunjae directly at 19 years. And most importantly, she would have had scandals with Yoon in the future. So, she is a prospective sister-in-law. Soyoung then escorted Yujin and Peace to the practice room. In the elevator, Soyoung said she was relieved to know that Yujin was safe from being kidnapped. Yujin is her only hope. She said she actually had the SS-class skill, Dragon Rider, a mounting skill. Dragons are the most difficult to tame among the monsters. Obtaining a high-ranking dragon beast mount for an A-class hunter is practically impossible. Yujin thinks Soyoung must be really talented. Soyoung said Yujin's appearance was like a miracle for her. Moreover, dragon nests often appear in Jupiter's jurisdiction dungeon. She said she would raise a dragon, and with Yujin's help, she could mount it. Yujin muttered to himself that Yoon's girlfriend was very lovely. Inside the practice room, Peace was still not enthusiastic. Yujin asked Peace to play as usual, but Peace still looked sluggish. Feeling stuck, Yujin then said he would invite Peace for a walk so that Peace's mood would improve. Soyoung said that she knew a place worth visiting. He invited Yujin to come to the rooftop garden in his guild. Soyoung immediately called Hyunjae and asked for permission to bring Yujin to the garden at Jupiter's guild. Hearing that, Hyunjae said he would send a car for them. Hyunjae smiled a little and said that he would prepare everything to welcome an important guest. After arriving at the rooftop of Jupiter Guild, Yujin was stunned to see it. Yujin said that the garden here is very beautiful. Yujin then told Peace that he was free to play there because this place was safe. Suddenly, Yoon's future boyfriend kissed Yujin on the cheek, saying that she and Yujin were good friends, so Peace shouldn't be shy and free to do anything. Surprised, Yujin screamed inside that a sister-in-law shouldn't just kiss someone like that. Peace then started walking and playing there. He jumped with joy and began to get excited. Soyoung hopes that Peace will like this place and later be good friends with her dragon beast. Hearing the mention of a dragon, Yujin asked what kind of dragon Jupiter Guild was trying to hatch. With enthusiasm, Soyoung explained that the dragon was a rank 3 flying dragon, a winged black needle dragon. This type of dragon has exceptional stamina and defense, even among the flying dragons. Hard and jet black needles envelop its body, and giant needles sprout from its wings and tail. Soyoung explained that the dragon was really cute. Yujin could only be speechless while saying that Soyoung's tastes were very strange. Soyoung then said that she hoped Yujin would also visit there often. Peace then came to Yujin while bringing flowers for him. Seeing Peace's cuteness, Yujin could only smile and thank Peace. Eugen breathed a sigh of relief and felt that it had been a long since he had gone for a walk and relaxed like this. Suddenly, someone came from behind them. Soyoung looked and asked why the guild master had come there. Feeling bad energy, Eugen can only sigh. Hyunjae came to them, and greeted Eugen in peace. Eugen starts to remember Sung Hyunjae as Jupiter's guildmaster in the strongest guild at the moment. They are even spreading their forces abroad. Until he leaves Korea in a few years and vanishes into thin air, he'll be the unshakable first place of the hunter ranking battles. He was being worthy of the name of strongest in the world. And such is the person now feeding him sweets. Soyoung waved and said she would leave them there. Hyunjae poured tea for Eugen, then told him to enjoy tea and snacks there. Hyunjae then gave a dragon wing bone for Peace. Seeing the bone, Peace became happy. He licked the bone while hugging it. Hyunjae said he was happy to see Eugen and Peace healthy. Hyunjae said that Eugen is a very important person. Eugen has magic beast taming skills, is a guardian for S-rank hunter, and now has the protection of the world's only awakened blacksmith. He said, Eugen currently is a being who can't be compared to anyone else. Many guilds are now frantically trying to approach Eugen. He said Eugen could do anything or ask anything, and every guild will gladly help Eugen. Hearing that, Eugen shyly said that it wasn't true. He was just an F-rank hunter, and he didn't want to do anything that could endanger his safety. Hyunjae said Eugen didn't need to worry about his safety anymore. The guild masters were discussing using the second high-ranking monster that would be Eugen's protector. Eugen, who had heard about it for the first time, asked what kind of monster it was. Hyunjae was surprised to know that Yuyeon had not said anything to Eugen. Hyunjae said that the current situation is quite hot. MKC as were responsible for the kidnapping incident, they are now getting ripped to shreds by everyone because of this matter. Eugen remembered that whenever he asked about the kidnapping incident, Yuyeon always changed the subject. If Eugen actually gained a taming skill instead of turning back time, he would have been living a secluded life without knowing a thing. Hyunjae continued to explain that he didn't know Yuyeon's way of thinking. Eugen is strong enough to be on par with most large guilds. Especially if Eugen continues to raise forces or even has a monster army. Eugen replied that he wasn't sure he could have a monster army. It would not be legal to raise that many monsters for himself. But with a cold gesture, Hyunjae said laws could only exist if there is a country and a society. People still have enough strength to manage dungeons and maintain society, but if dungeons grow in number and difficulty, everything will change. Every little source of strength, such as beast mounts, will become crucial. In a time like that, Eugen's existence will be peerless. Hearing that, Eugen broke into a cold sweat. Hyunjae convinced Eugen that Yuyeon knew about this, but he tried to hide everything from his brother. Eugen knows Hyunjae is just playing with his words, but somehow Eugen feels like Hyunjae is looking down and just testing him. Elsewhere, Yerim tells Yuyeon that something is bothering her. When Yerim used her skill, White Corpse, the memory of one of the Brick Guild members was a bit strange. She saw that Eugen did not faint after being given sleeping powder, even though Abby's had never given Eugen a detox item. Yerim hesitantly said that it seemed like Eugen was hiding something from them. When Eugen was going back to Abby's guild, Hyunjae suddenly offered to be his driver. Hyunjae even gave Eugen a bouquet as a present. Hyunjae said that it was all compensation he gave when he couldn't help Eugen during the kidnapping incident. Hyunjae, with a smile, said that this proves that the MKC guild has been contaminated to its roots. And they must be cut off soon. Hearing that, Yujin couldn't help but remain silent. Yujin wonders if MKC will fall earlier than last time. When he saw Hyunjae, Yujin felt he knew nothing about him. There's no trace of him from before he was awakened, and there are also suspicions that he may be foreign or biracial due to his white skin. Nobody knows his hometown or whether he has family or not. Yujin thought about whether he should use his sprout skill. Yujin glanced at Hyunjae and wanted to take a little peek at Hyunjae's status window. When the skill was just activated, Hyunjae suddenly moved and grabbed Yujin's neck from behind. Yujin, who felt very scared, unconsciously activated his fear resistance. Yujin feels that Hyunjae is a very sensitive monster, and Yujin doesn't even have time to see Hyunjae's status window. How could he know and react so quickly? Seeing that, Peace became alert. Yujin said that Hyunjae should be a protector for him, not intending to attack him like now. Hyunjae then takes his hand from Yujin's neck. He replied that he wasn't sure what Yujin meant. Neither of them has done a thing. Hearing that, Yujin could only shut his mouth. In front of Abby's guild, the guild leader and Seong-han were waiting for Yujin to come. Hyunjae got out of the car and said it seemed like everyone was waiting for them. He opened Yujin's door, and Yujin suddenly ran fast and took cover behind Seong-han. The guild leader asked what Hyunjae was doing there. Hyunjae will put them in a bad spot if he comes to visit without warning like this. The guild leader said that it's very rare for an S-class hunter to visit another S-class hunter's guild. Hyunjae can only smile. He told the guild leader not to treat him poorly. He gave a flower to the guild leader and said he only came as a bodyguard and took Yujin back. Hyunjae came to Yujin and told him to accept the bouquet he gave. He also gave Yujin earrings that have been imbued with a magic increasing purity effect and B-grade barrier skill. Yujin, who was a little surprised, could only accept the gift. Hyunjae then said that he hoped Yujin could get close to him from now on. The next day, Yujin put on the earrings given by Hyunjae. He called for Peace, but his barrier was active. Peace, who saw that, could only be confused. Yujin proudly said that his barrier was working fine. Smelling Peace's body, Yujin immediately ordered Peace to take a shower and threw him into the tub. While washing Peace, Yujin was grateful that Peace had improved after going for a walk yesterday. Not only that, Yujin even got new equipment. However, Yujin is sure he will never want to go there again. The guild leader said that S-rank hunters were very dangerous. Yujin was mad and protested how he could have to influence 50 of those dangerous people. He would love to grab the system by the collar and start complaining if he could. Suddenly, Peace jumped out of the bath, and Yujin immediately caught him. But strangely, all he caught was a doll. Yujin, who was confused, asked what really happened there. At that time, someone appeared and said it was a gift for Yujin. Doke KB came and greeted Yujin. Yujin asked if the doll was from Japan. The Doke KB agreed and explained that he bought it because it was freely sold in Japan. According to him, the doll is very cute. Doke KB told Yujin that Peace became very famous after Yujin appeared on TV. Doke KB then gave Yujin a tablet containing information about dungeons. Looking at the tablet's contents, Yujin asked why only the interior dungeon wasn't filled. Innocently, Doke KB answered because he couldn't enter the dungeon. Doke KB explains that whenever he wants to enter the dungeon, he gets bounced out for some reason. Yujin started to think that maybe this was because Yoon was born with a system so he couldn't enter the dungeon. Knowing this, Yujin suddenly hugged the Doke KB. He felt the need to do an experiment. Yujin told Yunyun to teleport while hugging Yujin. Feeling unable to refuse, Dokkaebi obeyed Yujin's order and immediately teleported. On top of large buildings, Yujin felt that Yunyun's teleportation was similar to when he passed through a dungeon gate. Dokkaebi kept teleporting, and Yujin was increasingly convinced of the truth about Yunyun's skills. Yunyun's teleportation is like passing a type of dungeon that he created. Yujin looked up and saw his status window change to how it was when the system sent him a private message in the dungeon. Yujin believes that if he uses his Dokkaebi skills, he will be able to have a proper conversation with the system. Yujin kept telling Dokkaebi to continue teleporting, but Dokkaebi said that he couldn't do it anymore. If Yujin keeps hugging him like this, Yunyun feels he has to wrestle Yujin. Yunyun immediately apologized, and Yujin could only be speechless knowing what random things his subordinates were doing. Yujin then opened his status window, and checked to see if his guess was correct. Yujin saw a very suspicious notification. Yujin was surprised when he realized that it was a vertical code. The system sends direct messages to Yujin like before. That explains everything. It meant the system couldn't send him a message until he entered a dungeon. Yujin asked himself if that meant even the system had its own limitation. Yujin stroked Yunyun's head and thanked him. Because of his help, Yujin was able to confirm something very important. Yujin felt he had to enter the dungeon again and discover the truth. Yujin walked away from Dokkaebi and said that he loved Yunyun. Hearing Yujin say the keyword, Yunyun feels that Yujin is similar to the granny who owned the house long ago. Several days passed, and Yujin received a message stating that he had won the auction for an F-class dungeon exclusive pass. Yujin then put on his disguise and said he had to go to the dungeon immediately while he still had the Blackie skill. Yujin made a strange move and activated Blackie's stealth skill. He skillfully enters the elevator unnoticed, and escapes past the surveillance devices. After all his struggles, he was able to escape the guild without being noticed. When he arrived at the front of the dungeon, Yujin convinced himself to return as soon as possible so Yuyon wouldn't find out. In that dungeon that looked like a jungle, Yujin hoped that the system would immediately give him an answer. When Yujin was attacked by monsters there, he was able to kill them all with ease using his tentacles. Yujin called the system while continuing to kill the monsters there. Yujin even shouted for the system to appear immediately because there wasn't much time. If Yujin keeps killing monsters, he will end up clearing this dungeon. That's when the system suddenly displayed a word. Seeing the word, "It's not my fault," Yujin wondered what it meant. The system reappears the wishing stone notification that Yujin got when turning back time. Confused, Yujin scratched his head. The notification then removes the text that said, "He can't revive people from the dead," and replaces it with "sorry" and an emoticon. Speechless, Yujin can only petrify. He felt he had been fooled by the system all this time. The angry Yujin realized that turning back time is more complicated than bringing back someone from the dead. Yujin asks why the system tricked him and made him turn back the time. Suddenly, the system pops up a lot of notifications. The system explained that they actually wanted to explain everything to Yujin, but the direct conversation was really hard and dangerous for both of them. The system said they needed 1 week to do the preparation. Yujin realizes that the system told him to return to the dungeon in 1 week. Having no choice, Yujin felt he had to return to the dungeon again. He thinks that there is something else other than the system. That means it gets more dangerous as the system interferes by sending messages to Yujin. A strange phenomenon occurred. The dungeon suddenly began to crack like glass that was accidentally broken. Eugen's notification screen exploded, and Eugen felt that something big was going to happen. Eugen saw a bright light and thought that maybe a more powerful monster than a dragon would pop out there. However, what Eugen saw next was just a ball of cotton that looked like mochi in Eugen's eyes. The mochi moved and became a chick. Afraid of being tricked again, Eugen ran for cover and camouflaged behind a bush. He activated the skill, but the system couldn't display anything. All the status of the monster looks like a secret that is deliberately blurred. The monster then came to a magic crystal and wanted to eat it. Seeing the poison-coated magic crystal, Eugen immediately picked up the monster and said it was dirty. In the end, unknowingly, Eugen touched the monster and panicked. But all Eugen felt was the monster was very fluffy and cute. The monster was crying because he was not allowed to eat. Eugen explained that the monster would get sick if it ate carelessly. He promised to give the chick a better meal. After defeating the dungeon boss, Eugen was amazed to see the chick who had been eating all the magic crystals like a glutton. Seeing the boss dungeon magic crystal in Eugen's hand, the monster drooled and wanted to eat it. Eugen pulled him and said that the crystal was too big and he would break it apart for the chick. At that time, the system explained that Eugen had made a surprising achievement. Eugen was clearing the F-class dungeon alone with only F-class status with less than 3 items. Eugen was granted a title as a miracle rookie. Knowing his new title is S-class, Eugen freaks out. He couldn't believe getting an S-class title in an F-rank dungeon. The effect is double the dungeon reward, which is so insane. The problem is, what is the point of doubling rewards in a low-class dungeon? When Eugen was disappointed, the monster approached the magic crystal and ate it. He ate it with one gulp. Eugen looked up and hoped the system would at least give him a pretty good reward. But when he saw the chick, Eugen panicked knowing that he had eaten the large magic crystal earlier. After that, Eugen then returned home safely. Inside the dorm, Peace plays and bites the chick. But at the end of the room, Eugen was very scared. He didn't know what to do because Peace was super active right now. Eugen doesn't know that cats and birds can't be put in the same place. The new monster almost became food for Peace. Eugen thought he shouldn't bring the monster, but he couldn't just leave it behind. At that time, Yuyond approached him and asked why Eugen was at the door. Surprised to see his brother, Eugen accidentally throws the monster and hides it. Yuyond, who was surprised to see Eugen had a new monster, asked how Eugen could have it. Eugen could only answer that he found it in the hallway. Eugen convinced Yuyond that the monster had been abandoned by its owner, and it was animal neglect, so Eugen just picked it up. Eugen then asked Yuyond to help calm Peace. Inside the dorm, Eugen explains to Peace that the chicks are his new friends, not food. But Peace didn't listen to him and kept targeting the chick. In the midst of the chaos, Yuyond told Eugen the reason for coming. He wants to ask Eugen about the kidnapping incident. Yuyond was hesitant to ask about it because he wanted to avoid bringing up any bad events for Eugen to remember, but he needed to confirm something. Feeling too noisy, Yuyond grabbed Peace, threw him, and said that he and Eugen had to talk seriously now. Seeing Peace being thrown, Eugen became angry and scolded Yuyond. So that is the end of the chapter. If you enjoy content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to WebStory. And don't forget to check another video in this channel for another interesting story.